That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates,
5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5.
You got me good there.
Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand.
Yeah.
Uncensored.
Very, very racy tonight.
On the unpredictable.
What did she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace to Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's 12 o'clock on Wednesday, the 30th of July. I'm Tom Harwell.
And I'm Emily Carver.
Now, a pathway to peace in the Middle East or a dangerous gamble?
I can confirm the UK will recognise the State of Palestine by the United Nations General Assembly in September.
Well, Keir Starmer warns Israel, agree to a Gaza ceasefire or Britain will recognise a Palestinian state. Netanyahu has fired back, accusing Keir Starmer of appeasing terrorists. Is this bold diplomacy or reckless brinkmanship?
Elsewhere, a massive earthquake in eastern Russia triggers tsunami fears across the Pacific Ocean. Hawaii's evacuation is now lifted, but dangerous tides remain. We'll have the very latest warnings and what's next.
And yes, knife crime. It's soared 58% in just 3 years, with 1 in 15 stabbings happening on just 20 streets near Oxford Circus in London. Critics say the capital is in the grip of a crime epidemic. We ask, is Sadiq Khan failing to keep London safe?
Yes, 8 days after his death, and Ozzy Osbourne's body will be taken in a hearse through his home city of Birmingham on the way to a private funeral later today.
Birmingham will say goodbye to one of its favourite sons today as the funeral procession of Ozzy Osbourne passes down Broad Street here this afternoon.
And should the royals let us know where they're going on holiday? Locals in the beautiful Greek island of Kefalonia claim they've seen the Prince and Princess of Wales enjoying a little downtime, but we haven't been told anything. Yeah, so the question really is Keir Starmer rewarding terrorism, rewarding Hamas by suddenly recognising Palestine as a state? Is this simply about politics for him? Is this just about appeasing his backbenchers? What is it? More than 200 of his backbenchers demanding this? And then why are all the conditions on Israel, the democratic state here, involved in this conflict? No conditions on Hamas, no get rid of that terrorist infrastructure, no release the hostages first. No, we're going to recognise a Palestinian state.
Although, of course, the Prime Minister has been under pressure from his backbenchers, from various electoral threats, the new Jeremy Corbyn party, and privately, reportedly, the Foreign Secretary had been very in favour of this too. There is an argument that if it's not done now, then when? The idea that a two-state solution is viable at all has been slipping away over the course of the last year or two. While the majority of Britain, I think, sits squarely behind the idea of a two-state solution, there is a question mark over how viable that is. So you can sort of see the logic of jumping in now.
I don't think so. You have to reach that point first, don't you? You have to have a peace process in place first. You have to have an agreement of a ceasefire. I mean, what criteria does Palestine currently fulfil in terms of being a state? I mean, it doesn't... you can argue about whether it has a defined territory. You can argue whether it has a functioning government. Certainly doesn't. It doesn't have elections in the way we do and in the way most states would. There's so many different factors that the UN and the international law say you need to have.
In some ways, what the United Kingdom is doing here is showing our impotence in the region. I mean, what other tools do we have to influence things in the Middle East? We no longer control the territory. We no longer have a big army. We don't provide military aid to Israel in the way the United States does. They listen to the United States. I mean, in what way can actually the UK be a diplomatic player in the Middle East in an age when we don't have assets there, when we're not the country that drew those lines in the first place anymore?
Yeah, and also, frankly, do you think this should be the priority currently? Is this what you're thinking about at home around the dining room table or wherever you are in the kitchen? Or do you think that perhaps Keir Starmer should be focusing on more domestic issues? Let us know, gbnews.com/your say. But let's get to the headlines with Sophia Hill.
Emily, thank you. A very good afternoon. It's just gone 12 o'clock. Let's bring you up to date with all the latest headlines. Top story today, the tsunami waves have reached California and Hawaii after a massive earthquake triggered warnings around the Pacific region. The 8.8 magnitude quake is the 6th strongest ever recorded. The Russian Pacific town of Severokurilsk has reported tsunami waves of over 3 metres. Workers have now evacuated the stricken Fukushima nuclear power plant in Japan, as others are seeking higher ground. The Hawaiian governor has signed an emergency declaration and called for the evacuation of some coastal areas. Brits have been issued tsunami warnings for 17 different countries by the Foreign Office, urging them to follow the advice of local authorities.
I can confirm the UK will recognise the State of Palestine by the United Nations General Assembly in September.
Keir Starmer is under fire after announcing Britain will go ahead with the decision regarding Palestine at the upcoming UN gathering. That's unless Israel allows more aid access to Gaza, stops West Bank annexation and agrees to a ceasefire and a long-term peace process. He added that Hamas must also release hostages, disarm and step away from Gaza's future government. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has hit back, accusing Keir of rewarding monstrous terrorism and warning that appeasement always fails. Meanwhile, President Donald Trump, who met the PM on Monday, claimed they didn't discuss the move, but said Keir is entitled to take a position. Speaking to GB News earlier on, Shadow Foreign Secretary Dame Priti Patel said she doesn't believe this decision will help with the aid crisis.
Britain simply hasn't been leveraging its influence. It hasn't been at the negotiating table. It's not really done anything in terms of making sure that we're stepping up to release the hostages, ensure that Hamas has no future role to play. All the British government has done is effectively issue condemnations to Israel, which I think has emboldened Hamas, and that has not helped anybody. It's certainly not helped the people in Gaza. It's not helped aid get into Gaza.
Resident doctors in England ended their 5-day strike this morning in their long-running pay dispute with the government. The BMA is demanding a 29% rise to reverse pay erosion since 2008. Health Secretary Wes Streeting has thanked the NHS staff for minimising disruption, but he's also ruled out reopening pay talks. Over the last few days, thousands of appointments were affected, despite efforts to keep planned care running. From disused tracks to new homes, the government's fast-tracking house building on old railway land. A new company called Platform 4 will manage brownfield sites to help build over 40,000 homes over the next 10 years, replacing a fragmented system split between rail bodies. It will initially focus on England and Wales, with scope to reach Scotland. Transport Secretary Heidi Alexander laid out her plans to GB News.
People across the country in our towns and our cities are crying out for new life to be brought back in to the heart of the places where they live. And so we're going to work in a more coordinated way by bringing together an organisation called London and Continental Railways with Network Rail's Property Development Group. We think that over the next decade we could build 40,000 homes.
And fans will say goodbye to Ozzy Osbourne today as a procession travels down Broad Street in Birmingham. The hearse will pass the Black Sabbath bench at 1 o'clock today, where thousands have paid tribute to the 76-year-old rock legend. You can see live pictures on your screen now from Birmingham. The Osbourne family has covered the costs for the event, with his wife Sharon and their children Kelly and Jack following the procession before the private funeral later today. Now, a new poll suggests most people think airlines should prioritise punctuality over cutting carbon emissions. 63% of UK adults say ensuring planes take off and land on time should be the sector's main focus, compared with 56% who back reducing emissions. Support for greener flying has dipped since 2020, when 70% said it should be top priority. Campaigners say that both goals should go hand in hand. And history has been made at the Royal Observatory, with Professor Michelle Doherty becoming the first woman ever appointed Astronomer Royal. Approved by the King, she takes on the role originally created in 1675 to help solve the mystery of sea longitude. Professor Doherty is a leading space physicist and joins a line of prestigious scientists dating all the way back to John Flamsteed. Those are the latest GB News headlines for now. Before I hand you back to Tom and Emily, let's take a quick look at the markets.
My Claim Group sponsors the GB News Finance Report.
Here's a quick snapshot of today's markets. The pound will buy you $1.338 and 1.158 euros. The price of gold is £2,491.07 per ounce, and the FTSE 100's at 9,112 points.
My Claim Group sponsors the GB News Finance Report.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's 10 minutes past midday. Now, the backlash is growing over the Prime Minister's plan to formally recognise the state of Palestine in September at a UN meeting in New York.
Our goal remains a safe and secure Israel, alongside a viable and sovereign Palestinian state. But right now, that goal is under pressure like never before. So today, as part of this process towards peace, I can confirm the UK will recognise the state of Palestine by the United Nations General Assembly in September.
So there you go, yes, Sakir there making the announcement after an emergency cabinet meeting on the crisis in Gaza yesterday afternoon.
Well, in response, Benjamin Netanyahu, the Israeli Prime Minister, has said his country will not agree to the conditions set out by Downing Street, which includes a long-term peace plan based on a two-state solution.
But many people are asking if the Prime Minister is simply rewarding Hamas terrorists by doing this.
Yes, those are the words of the Israeli Prime Minister. So let's debate it with the social campaigner, Rabbi Dr. Jonathan Romain, and the human rights campaigner, Peter Tatchell. Dr. Jonathan, thanks so much for being with us. Let's kick off with you first. What do you make of this charge that the Prime Minister is rewarding terrorism?
Unfortunately, I think it's true. It's a totally bizarre decision on so many levels. Let me just give you four very brief points. Firstly, why should a political decision, such as statehood, be dependent on ending a famine? I mean, the famine's terrible. Everyone knows that. But it's nothing to do with borders and government. Secondly, ask yourself what Hamas hoped to achieve when it attacked Israel on October the 7th. You know, killing, 1,200 Israelis and then scarpering back over the border with hostages. It wasn't going to topple Israel. It never intended that. What it did want was some kind of political reward, and they've got it. And it's not just a terrible message to Hamas, it's a terrible message to all other terrorists, all other causes around the world. Take hostages and you get what you want. Thirdly, recognising statehood Yes, it could have been a very important diplomatic tool as and when there were serious negotiations, and it maybe could have been used to push them over the line. That's used, it's gone. They've lost all future leverage. And finally, I think it's right to label this, as some people have done, as sort of virtue signalling. It doesn't change anything on the ground. All it does is play catch up with Macron, and it quells Labour backbenchers. So it really was a ridiculous decision, and I think one we're going to regret.
OK, some strong points there. Let's put that to you, Peter. The central question, is the Prime Minister rewarding terrorism?
Well, the Palestinian people have a right to their own state, just like the Jewish people have a right to their own state. This is not about rewarding Hamas. Hamas has negligible support among Palestinians. A recent poll showed that only 6% of people in Gaza would vote for Hamas if there was an election tomorrow. So you cannot equate Hamas with the Palestinian people. Recognition of a state is not rewarding Hamas. It is giving justice to the people of Palestine who've been dispossessed for so many years. On the Palestinian side, the Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas has condemned terrorism. He's condemned the killing of civilians. He's demanded the release of the hostages, and he supports a two-state solution. On the Israeli side, Benjamin Netanyahu opposes a two-state solution. So the roadblock to peace, which involves a two-state solution, is being blocked by the Israeli government, not by the legitimate leader of the Palestinian people, President Mahmoud Abbas. We have to start from the basics. We have to end this war right now. Israel doesn't have a peace plan. It's only got a war plan, and that will continue killing tens of thousands of civilians, including many children, which is totally unacceptable. Hamas is wrong. Hamas must be defeated, but not at the expense of killing so many innocent civilians, which is what Israel has done, and which does amount to war crimes.
Jonathan, what do you make of the argument that actually sort of Hamas is pretty much over and done with? Their senior leadership have been wiped out. They're not a significant force to reckon with, at least politically, anymore. The British government has decided that all it needs to do is put pressure on Israel rather than the other side.
Well, that doesn't stand up to fact. I mean, by the way, I should say I agree with Peter on a lot of other issues, and I certainly support the idea of a two-state solution. But there's no doubt that this is being perceived by Hamas as a reward. They actually said so. They said thank you. They said they praised Macron and now Starmer. It's being perceived as a reward by Israel. Yes, of course, let's have a two-state solution. And yes, of course, we need to recognise the Palestine at some point, but not now when it achieves absolutely nothing, when Hamas is still holding the hostages. I mean, look, they could have released the hostages, both those that are alive and the bodies. They aren't doing that. They are holding out. They are resisting. It's still an active force. And giving no indication of a ceasefire, no indication of returning hostages. So what is this doing other than rewarding them? And by the way, one other little thing that hasn't been mentioned is it's often said that there's a closed border and Israel isn't letting supplies in. Well, don't forget that there is a border between Gaza and Egypt. Why isn't Egypt letting aid in? What is it that they think about Hamas or fear about Hamas that we in the West haven't cottoned on to? So there's still a lot of work to do before we get to that really important peace process.
I mean, Peter, there is a concern that there have been no conditions put on Hamas for the recognition of Palestine, only conditions put on Israel, so no requirement to, for example, fully dismantle their terrorist infrastructure.
Well, of course, they should dismantle their terrorist infrastructure, absolutely.
But there's no condition, though, for the recognition of the Palestinian state. That's why people believe that this is rewarding Hamas.
Hamas no longer has any power. It is a dismembered organisation. It doesn't have a state. The state of Palestine is run by the Palestinian Authority and the West Bank, President Mahmoud Abbas. He is the genuine spokesperson for the people of Palestine. Not everyone supports him, but hardly anybody now supports Hamas. Hardly anybody in Palestine.
And you believe that is a functioning, fully functioning political authority, because that is one of the criteria for statehood?
Well, the Palestinian Authority is a de facto state. It already has many of the functions of a state. And what this decision to recognise the Palestinian state would be to ensure that statehood is actually officially recognised. We can't go over the old ground. Hamas is discredited. People in Palestine, there have been huge mass protests across Gaza for the last 4 months by tens of thousands of Gazans who oppose Hamas. It's clear that public opinion in Gaza is against Hamas, and to equate the people of Palestine with Hamas is a monstrous misrepresentation.
But Peter, of course,
we cannot punish the Palestinian people because of the misdeeds of Hamas.
But Peter, of course, there is a question mark here in terms of how on earth do you get to a point of negotiation if Hamas cannot be part of that negotiation? How on earth do you get to a position where there is some sort of authority in Gaza that isn't Hamas? Surely the only way to dislodge them is militarily, and then you're just swapping out Israeli bombs for American bombs or NATO bombs or however else you're going to dislodge the Hamas authority in the Gaza Strip.
Well, of course, the Palestinian Authority could take over the administration of the Gaza Strip. And in due
Does
course,
that not need to happen first, Peter? This is the question. Does that not need to happen first? Because I'll put that to Jonathan. This appears like virtue signaling, considering what actual impact is the UK recognising Palestine as a state going to actually help in any peace process, Jonathan?
Well, yeah, exactly right. And the problem is that the Palestinian Authority in the West Bank, and Peter's right that it is in control, but only just by the skin of its teeth. It hasn't dared have an election for, what, 20 years? Because otherwise it would get thrown out. So, to start thinking in democratic Western terms is totally wrong. And also, it's well known for being corrupt. It can hardly govern the West Bank. There are terrible problems there. Yes, of course, there is settler violence, but there's also Arab on Arab violence. It is not a successful government, and whether it will be accepted in Gaza, well, that's a very big question. It certainly got rejected by the people of Gaza, who, when they did last have a vote, preferred Hamas to the Palestinian Authority. Yeah. So, yes, of course, we've got to try with all our heart and all our might to get to that peace process, but just sort of throwing statehood at them is just a meaningless gesture, and is really a substitute for real work.
OK, we started with you, so let's give a final word to Peter Tatchell on this debate.
Can I just remind everyone that when those elections were held 20-odd years ago, Hamas did not win a majority. A majority of people voted against Hamas, but it seized power in Gaza and massacred supporters of the democratic secular Palestinian organisation, Fatah and the PLO. Let's remember that the Palestinian Authority and its main organisations, at least in principle, believe in democracy and secularism. They're opposed to the kind of...
No, they don't. They haven't had dared to have an election.
Religious state. They're opposed to the kind of theocratic religious state that Hamas seeks to impose. I think we have to go with what we've got at the moment. Anything is better than Hamas.
Okay.
And I think a state is the precondition to solving this issue of Middle East conflict.
OK, well, Peter Tatchell, thank you. Rabbi Dr. Jonathan Romain, thank you as well. And we're also neglecting the fact that there are a lot of people in that part of the world who don't want Israel to even exist. So there is that, which is quite fundamental. But let us know your thoughts, gbnews.com/your say. A lot of people would consider that Keir Starmer is perhaps doing this for political reasons as well, which is worth noting.
In the room, absolutely. But we're going to move on to another issue now. Of course, an 8.8 magnitude earthquake, one of the strongest ever recorded, struck eastern Russia overnight. This has triggered tsunami warnings across the Pacific.
Yes, so tsunami waves have already reached California, they've already reached Hawaii, and they're prompting mass evacuations.
But Hawaii's tsunami warning has now been downgraded to only advisory. Residents are being told it is safe to return, but dangerous tides persist. But how much further is this spreading? If Hawaii is safe, where might not be.
Well, exactly. We're going to speak to an expert on this, the director of the International Tsunami Information Centre, because there were deep concerns that this could potentially lead to, well, mass death. We've seen the most awful tsunamis in recent years. I remember back to the Boxing Day, was it 2004?
Yeah.
Which was quite extraordinary. It took the world completely by shock. Doesn't look as though we're reaching anything like that, hopefully,
No.
and that perhaps things are looking okay.
But there is always the danger that we think, you know, just because this warning has been lifted for Hawaii, I mean, that is quite a long way away from the epicentre of this earthquake. There are lots of islands in the Pacific Ocean, many of which much more low-lying than Hawaii. There is a huge amount of concern for many, many people, perhaps in less developed countries, in terms of what this surge of water could actually sort of reap upon them.
Well, it's quite extraordinary that 1.9 million people have been told to evacuate in Japan. Absolutely huge evacuation. That includes workers at the Fukushima nuclear plant, for obvious reasons. And potentially, experts are saying that these waves could persist for a number of days.
Absolutely. We're looking at live pictures of Hawaii now, where we can see, actually, not that much, given that it's the other side of the world and therefore the dead of night.
Yes, it's 1:23 in the morning over there.
Yes, but we did earlier see some real storm surging from the sea. Some quite dramatic imagery. But, of course, as we say, that warning in Hawaii now lifted.
Yeah, you've had tourists having to, well, very speedily evacuate cruise ships outside of Hawaii and the like. But we are going to move on from this because there's another story which involves 12 veterans. They were served eviction papers up in Bolton, just completely out of the blue.
Yes, a letter hit the doormat and told them to get out in a month without giving any reason.
Now, GBNews' Patrick Christys last night spoke to Councillor Trevor Jones along with 3 veterans, Scott, Gary and Andy. Let's take a listen.
Question, what's the reason for it? They didn't have an answer. I asked them what they've got in place for us if we do get evicted. They still didn't have an answer. They said we've got 2 months to do whatever. Like, stress levels in this building with all the boys and girls in here is just so high at the moment, you know what I mean? I'm 53 at the moment. If I get made homeless, I don't know what I'm going to do. I've got no family now, you know what I mean? So I'm going to be stuck.
Really, really concerning stuff there. I mean, people left in the most desperate situation. Let's speak to Mr. Patrick Carver, Mr. Emily Carver. Patrick Christys is here on the line with us. Patrick, thanks so much for being with us. A really moving story, actually, from you last night, with these guys in a complete bind now.
Absolutely. Well, look, I would just like to start by thanking all of our veterans and all the members of our armed forces for everything that they do. And the Council and the Housing Association appear to have made a catastrophic mistake here. And frankly, I don't think we're going to stand for it. You do not make veterans homeless. We have veterans being treated like second-class citizens in their own country, it would seem, and they fought for us. Perhaps now it's time for us to fight for them. For a bit more detail on this, I've read this morning some statements from the local council and the Housing Association. Now, they seem to be saying, hey, look, don't worry, we're not going to be putting asylum seekers in there. Well, hang on a minute. That's not the point. Obviously, it would be an additional kick in the nuts if veterans were turfed out to make way for new arrivals, but that is not the point. The point is that you're about to turf veterans out onto the streets, potentially, who've served multiple tours in the Middle East, experienced the horrors of wars, seen their mates killed, been shot at themselves, risked being blown up, and are now dealing with the mental consequences of that. One lad there that I spoke to in that interview in the extended version revealed that, sadly, he tried to take his own life. Thankfully, he was unsuccessful. You know, how dare anyone threaten to make these people homeless? And, you know, I will just say this as well. The only reason that people like me and you guys there get to have this kind of conversation, have a very nice life, enjoy the nice things that we do in our lives, and the same goes for the council workers, is because that there are rough, tough men out there like those lads who are prepared to make the ultimate sacrifices and go to places both mentally and physically that we are unwilling or unable to go to in order to secure our freedom and our way of life. And to turf them out onto the street is appalling.
Yeah, also, Patrick, I mean, we've got these statements from the council and the Housing Association now saying that they're working on this, they're going to be in contact with the veterans, we're going to sort something out. Well, OK, but these veterans were telling you last night that they got this eviction notice a couple of weeks ago, at least, had heard absolutely nothing about any other form of accommodation that they might have been offered. They'd just been completely left in limbo. And as you say, PTSD, complex issues as a result of their service. I mean, what a way to treat people. Do you think that perhaps the council is just catching up on this because of potentially some media pressure, Patrick?
Well, it would absolutely appear so, wouldn't it? They wanted these lads to go quietly. And the questions are outstanding still, which is, what are you going to do with that accommodation? So, you know, who is going to live there? Why is the financial decision being made to turf these people out? There appears to be some situation involving housing benefit for these veterans now being denied to them as well. We're trying to get answers from the local council on all of this. But what I will say is this, regardless of whether or not the council is only acting now and the Housing Association is only acting now because of media pressure, there is still the opportunity to put this right. They can issue an apology. They can keep the lads in their homes. But I think actually we want more than that now, because those veterans were telling me that the accommodation they are in is not particularly good. It needs to be decorated a little bit. There's probably issues, I would imagine, with things like plumbing and rising dam. You know, the council and the Housing Association have an opportunity now to put that right. Go in there, apologise to them, give them a guarantee they can stay, redecorate it, give them new mattresses if they need new mattresses, sort the plumbing out. Because the thing is, it's a very, very risky game for the council and for the Housing Association to be playing this. You know, there is a standing army of people in Britain who do not like seeing veterans treated like second-class citizens. And you know, look, I will just say this as well. Regardless of whether or not it's asylum seekers who are going in there, that's a secondary issue. But just as a point, all right, if this had been an accommodation that was being used for asylum seekers and they had just served an eviction notice, you can guarantee that the local council would currently be moving heaven and earth to find them somewhere to stay. So why are they not doing that for people who have fought for this country?
Well, it does take the biscuit, doesn't it, when you have the Prime Minister sitting before a committee of MPs only 2 weeks ago saying that there's plenty of accommodation for people, whether they're homeless, whether they're asylum seekers, there's plenty of accommodation. People do turn up on those boats across the channel and get accommodation immediately. And then it takes items on national television news to try and raise the case of veterans in this country. I mean, that does really take the biscuit. The sort of two-tier approach that we're seeing to housing issues in this country. Yes, it doesn't matter whether or not these individuals are being kicked out for one reason or another. As you say, they are being kicked out. And it looked like the council simply did not care in the way that we see the state and various authorities caring so much for people who perhaps have so much less connection to this country.
Yeah, and what does it really say about the priorities of Britain as a country? Well, we've got this story. It's happening in Bolton. I've got absolutely no doubt whatsoever that similar stuff is probably happening right up and down the country. And the thing with the veteran community is as well that a lot of them can often be a bit too proud to ask for help for a variety of reasons. And so we're finding out about this. These lads didn't want to go public with it, but we're finding out about it, and they've put their heads above the parapet yet again, and they're telling us about it. But this speaks to a wider national psychological issue. If you judge a country by how you treat your veterans, then frankly, we're not scoring particularly highly at the moment, are we? There's a serious question of priorities here. And this decision, you know, would have had to have gone through various different layers. All right, maybe it's a mistake. Maybe it's a really bad mistake. But the fact that that mistake was even allowed to happen speaks volumes about the psychology of certain people in positions of power. And we cannot have a situation in Britain where people who have been willing to lay it all on the line, you know, look, for example, we've got junior doctors or resident doctors out striking at the moment. They want a load more money. People in the military can't go on strike. They deserve a pay rise, don't they? You know, this is it. We've got our priorities all wrong in this country at the moment. The minimum level of social contract with people who fought for this country is that they should have a comfortable roof over their heads, and they shouldn't have to have that anxiety and fear of being made homeless.
Yeah, and it's a fantastic thing that these guys did speak out when they did, because a lot of people in this situation, veterans in this situation, may not have the confidence to, go out there onto the media, make a bit of noise about this issue. And it's fantastic that they did, and fantastic that your show obviously amplified this, and that the channel is this morning as well, because there are too many veterans who are homeless. And as Tom says, Keir Starmer says there's plenty of housing. So what's next then Patrick? What can we do to ensure these guys get some accommodation?
All right. Well, look, we have had quite a busy morning, and I don't want to overpromise and underdeliver, because obviously these veterans are already in a slightly delicate situation, I would imagine, mentally and also in terms of their accommodation, clearly. So we are looking at some options. I've been in touch with several people. I think the primary thing and the easiest way out of this, obviously, is for the council and the housing authority to admit the error of their ways and sort it out, right? So there would be that. If not, are there things that people out there can do for them in terms of accommodation or in terms of improving the accommodation that they're in now? Yes, I think there are. And I would just, again, I don't want to sound too menacing or anything like that at all, but I don't think the council and the housing association want to pick this fight. And I'll leave it at that for now.
Well, a profound statement there. I won't go as far as to say a warning, but perhaps so. Patrick Castise, thanks so much for joining us.
Well, it's so interesting, because I remember locally to me a couple of years back there was a migrant hotel, and it came into the local press that the asylum seekers there were going to be moved out to some other accommodation. So here come lots of middle-class do-gooders with their placards saying, no, don't remove them from this housing. They deserve to live here. They deserve to live in this hotel in our area. Where are the placards for these guys?
Yeah.
Being evicted out of the blue.
Well, we should say that a spokesperson for Bolton Council says we share the concerns that have been raised after the Qualitas Housing issued Section 21 notices to armed forces veterans living at Constellation House in Farnworth. We are in discussions with the housing provider to resolve this matter. The council is also in the process of contacting tenants to offer them full support of our housing options and advice team.
Go on, Qualitas Housing have confirmed they have not spoken to Serco and do not have any plans to house asylum seekers in the property. Exempt accommodation providers receive uncapped housing benefits directly in exchange for providing support services to vulnerable tenants. In order to qualify, providers must meet specific criteria to ensure appropriate services and facilities are in place. While the council previously concluded that Constellation House did not meet the required standards, this decision has now been appealed, and we are reviewing the case in line with the legislation. That's from Bolton Council.
Got all that? Well, this is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News. Lots more coming up on today's programme. Indeed, after the break, we'll be live in Birmingham, where Ozzy Osbourne will make his final journey through the city. But first, it's your latest news headlines with Sophia.
Very good afternoon. The latest headlines shortly after 12:30. Tsunami waves have reached California and Hawaii after a massive earthquake triggered warnings around the Pacific region. The 8.8 magnitude quake is the 6th strongest ever recorded. The backlash is growing over the Prime Minister's plans to formally recognise the state of Palestine in September at the UN meeting in New York, with Israel's Prime Minister accusing the PM of monstrous terrorism. Multiple lifeboats have been called out to help with the chaotic scenes in the English Channel as more than 500 small boat migrants attempt to cross to the UK. As one senior maritime security source told GB News, the situation out there is complete chaos. And fans will say goodbye to Ozzy Osbourne today as a procession travels down Broad Street in Birmingham so they can pay their tributes to the rock legend. And history has been made, with Professor Michelle Doherty becoming the first woman ever appointed Astronomer Royal. Approved by the King, she takes on the role originally created to help solve the mystery of longitude at sea. Those are the headlines for now. More news at the top of the hour.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Mama, I'm coming home. Yes, Ozzy Osbourne comes home one last time.
Yes, the Prince of Darkness, honoured today with a citywide procession through Birmingham, giving fans the chance to say goodbye as the Black Sabbath legend is celebrated in the place where it all began.
Well, let's cross live to Birmingham now, where GB News reporter Steve Bennett is there for us ahead of this procession, really, through the centre of the town. And Steve, it's getting busier and busier.
It really is. Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Incredible scenes. I don't think I've had an atmosphere like this, actually. So much love, so much outpouring of emotion for one of Birmingham's favourite sons. I'm joined by one Ozzy Osbourne fan now, Steve. Steve to Steve, this is. Steve, tell us why you wanted to be here today.
So, this is a once-in-a-lifetime experience. Ozzy was once in a lifetime. Every single person here, we're all here to celebrate the life of one man. He redefined music, he redefined several generations of people. You don't just get up and invent a genre of music that takes off, and without Ozzy there'd be no us. There really would be none of any of this.
Yeah, we were saying earlier, thousands of people up and down Broad Street. Everywhere you can see, there's people who want to pay their last respects to us.
Absolutely. I mean, I came down from the very top, and all the way down, it's tens of thousands of people. At 24 hours' notice, people are called in work, people have sacked off their jobs, people have come from everywhere just to pay their final respects to a once-in-a-lifetime living legend.
You touched on it there. What did he do for metal music and for Birmingham?
So between him and Tony, they invented metal. They took guitars, they made it sound heavier, they made the vocals sound darker, deeper, and they invented an entire genre of music. Without Ozzy and without Black Sabbath, there'd be no heavy metal. It wasn't like Lemmy with rock and roll and blues. Ozzy literally invented an entire genre of music.
We were just talking off camera there, his final concert, which he did just down the road at Villa Park. All that money, $200 million to charity. Incredible.
It's absolutely insane to do that 17 days before he died. Like, the man was on stage, he was frail, he was suffering. He didn't take any pain medication before the show because he wanted to do it completely raw. You could hear in his voice he was sad, he was absolutely heartbroken that it had to end. And his dying gift to Birmingham charities was $200 million. And it's absolutely nuts.
Incredible. Steve, thank you so much. That's just one of the views of the thousands of people who have turned out here on Broad Street to pay their final respects to a legend of the music business of this city, Ozzy Osbourne.
Fantastic stuff to speak to a real fan there, hear from him. Clearly, so much passion for the genre, and Black Sabbath being right at the front of it. Recreating, well, not recreating, creating a whole new genre.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Steve, we'll be back with you, of course, as things continue to build up there in Birmingham. But for now, thank you very much indeed.
Well, we're going to head to the capital now, because new statistics are out and they show that knife crime is surging.
Yes, it's risen by 58% in the last 3 years, with London hotspots of Oxford Circus and Regent Street being those major crime hotspots too.
Yes, this certainly won't help London Mayor Sadiq Khan rise in Donald Trump's estimations.
Not a fan of your mayor. Why not? I think he's done a terrible job, the mayor of London, but a nasty person. He's a friend of mine. No, I think he's done a terrible job, but I would certainly visit London. Yeah.
Now, I don't know if Donald Trump was talking about knife crime there, where he was talking badly about Sadiq Khan, but we do want to ask the question, is this Sadiq Khan's fault, this rise in knife crime and other types of crime too in our capital city?
Well, let's discuss this now with Andy Williams, the political commentator, and the retired Scotland Yard detective Mike Neville. Mike, we'll kick off with you. What do you reckon?
I reckon there's several people to blame here, and the political classes are equally to blame across what you might style as the uni-party. So you've got Sadiq Khan, who campaigned heavily against Stop and Search, said it was racist. On the other side of the coin, you had Theresa May as the Tory Home Secretary doing exactly the same. And you had many, many senior officers in the police advocating that Stop and Search should be substantially reduced. Indeed, Craig Mackey, who was the Deputy Commissioner of the Met for many years, he was actually knighted for reducing Stop and Search. So I think all these people are to blame for this increase in knife crime and the murders and robberies which result because of it.
Andy, knife crime has risen under Sadiq Khan's watch. Is it his fault?
Well, I think, as Mike says, you know, he is partly to blame. There's no doubt about it. He's in charge of London. He has to be accountable for that. That's why politicians are elected. But what I'd also say is that, look, this is only one part of the picture, and I've heard a lot of nonsense all over places like Twitter and on various news outlets about how London is basically too dangerous to set foot in these days. You can't go to central London without having a watch snatched off your hand or without being stabbed. We have to be clear about the fact that London has the biggest population of any city in the UK by quite a long way, and that is one of the reasons why it's responsible for so much knife crime. So we need to look at it in context. In terms of stop and search, I broadly agree with Mike in terms of we need more stop and search. We need a zero tolerance approach to things like knife crime. If you are caught with a knife in your hand in London, you should automatically be arrested and banged up. I think that's very clear. But there are problems with stop and search. It's not inherently racist, but there is no doubt that a disproportionate number of people of colour are stopped and searched.
But Andy, a disproportionate number of people of colour are involved in knife crime. I mean, surely these two things...
Can I answer that question?
Go on, then.
Can I make that point as well? So it's exactly, the police cannot help who commits crime. So 60% of knife murders in London are committed by young black men, often against young black men. But only 2% of London's population are young black men. So that means they're committing crime 30 times higher than they should do if everybody committed the same. And if the police were inherently racist, they would go around stopping elderly Asian ladies who wouldn't give them any grief, and they could bully them. So why pick on young men who are big and strong? It's what happens here is the police are frightened now to deal with criminals, and the consequences are that people die. And all this talk of racism is really bad. As I keep reiterating, the young officers on the street, they simply cannot help who commits crime. They don't force young black men to shoot or stab each other, but that's what happens a lot, and the police have to deal with the mess.
Also, Andy, I mean, it is true that Sadiq Khan has been very sceptical of stop and search as a police tactic altogether. I'm just looking at a headline back in 2018. Sadiq Khan, I'd do everything in my power to cut, stop and search. I mean, with that attitude, what chance do we have?
I'm not here saying that Sadiq Khan is a 10 out of 10 mayor of London. I think Sadiq Khan is a 6 out of 10 mayor of London, right? I think he's perfectly fine. Don't think he's the best politician who's ever run a major city, right? What I'm saying is it's not entirely his fault. I think stop and search is part of the solution. I acknowledge Mike's points, but I do think if we're going to roll out a broader programme of stop and search in London, we need to make sure that all police officers are educated on how to do that, and they make sure that they're not, by accident or because of unconscious bias or whatever, picking on certain groups. I accept that some of those groups are more likely to commit crime than others, but we do need to be mindful of that. I think that's important.
Okay. It is interesting, actually, that 6 out of 10 statistic, because a lot of people are sort of asking this question: how does this man keep getting elected as Mayor of London? And everyone I speak to, it's the people who vote for him not because they love him, but because all the other options in their view would be worse. I'm just interested to press you on that a little bit, Andy. Do you think that sort of Sadiq Khan has almost won by default over the course of the last 3 mayoral elections?
Well, I think in the last mayoral election he won by default because he was up against Susan Hall, who's one of the worst major political candidates in frontline politics that I've ever seen. I mean, she was unbelievably bad and totally incapable of taking on a major political role in this country. So I certainly think he won last time by default. There's obviously something about the fact that London, like a few other major cities in the UK, it leans strongly Labour. Whether that will remain the case for the next 10, 20 years remains to be seen. But I think there's absolutely something about putting a red rosette on some...
Yeah.
Say again?
He's the Labour candidate, so
you look at Andy Burnham, who wins with 72%, and then you look at Sadiq Khan, who scrapes 40%, and you sort of think,
Well, yeah. Andy Williams, Mike Neville, thank you very much.
Right, and Sadiq Khan doesn't.
OK, well, thank you very much for your time, both of you. Good debate there to be had. I do say, when people say, people are a bit exaggerating, London's absolutely fine, people are taking precautions. People take precautions in the way that they live their lives, not taking their phone out, not going to this certain area at this time at night, not going down that road that they used to walk down.
I've got to say, the only time
I certainly do as a young woman.
The only time I've had my phone stolen in London was 2018. Haven't had it stolen since, so that was...
Maybe you're a little more careful, though.
Maybe I'm more careful. But I do think this 3
Or maybe you just look stronger and less and scarier.
I definitely am stronger than I was 7 years ago.
Yes, it might be that, you know. Might be that.
But I don't know. I think also some of these statistics, measuring from 3 years ago, when we still had pandemic restrictions,
Yeah, we were
when people were
locked down.
going out less, I think it's sort of inevitable that crime will be higher than some of the pandemic years.
Yeah,
But,
well, let us know your thoughts. But if you're in search of some holiday sun away from the capital, or anywhere else for that matter, here's the European travel weather.
Can't wait to get in that sea.
Lovely and warm.
Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News travel destinations forecast.
The heat wave is now easing across parts of Greece and also parts of Turkey, but elsewhere across Europe, still some humid air creating thundery downpours. But across the west, particularly across Portugal, Spain, most of France, it's largely dry, plenty of sunshine. But across parts of Germany, northern parts of Italy, still a chance of some quite intense thundery downpours. And also still across parts of Greece and Bulgaria, we could start to see some outbreaks of rain. But otherwise, for the large majority, plenty of sunshine and warm temperatures.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News travel destinations forecast.
Hello there, good morning. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Many should see a dry day ahead, plenty of sunny spells. We can't rule out the odd shower, but where you do see any sunshine, it is going to be feeling warm. And that's all thanks to high pressure building towards the southwest. But draw your eyes to the northwest of the country, a frontal system lingering on here. So that's where we'll see the bulk of the cloud this afternoon, possibly even some light outbreaks of rain, particularly across western parts of Scotland and eventually clearing Northern Ireland. Now the odd shower, particularly across parts of the southeast, but otherwise a dry afternoon for many. Plenty of sunny spells and a mix of cloud too. Feeling warm, highs reaching around 25 degrees Celsius across the south, but even across northern areas, many towns and cities reaching the low 20s. Now, as we progress further into the evening, there's still going to be a fair amount of clouds, some light outbreaks of rain, this time pushing into central parts of Scotland, though northeastern parts of Scotland should remain mostly dry. Any rain clearing away from Northern Ireland, so it should be quite a pleasant end to the day, and fairly similar once again across the rest of England and Wales. Still a chance of the odd isolated shower across the southeast, but many should see a dry end to the day. And it remains fairly similar through the course of the evening. Still some light outbreaks of rain affecting northeastern parts of Scotland. Then we do just need to keep an eye on this system pushing into Wales and central parts of England as we head towards dawn. A chance we could start to see some heavy showers through the course of the morning. But for many, once again, remaining mostly dry. And it's going to be particularly mild as well. Once again, across the southeast, many lows not dropping much past 16 to 17 degrees Celsius. Now, it's really across central areas and parts of the south that is a bit of a watch point tomorrow. Some quite heavy, possibly thundery showers pushing into central and southern parts. So this could bring some hail and also some frequent lightning. So do take care if you're out and about. Also the odd shower across eastern parts of Scotland, northeastern parts of England. But elsewhere, plenty of sunshine and once again, feeling warm.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good afternoon. This is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. The A725 northbound's Belsey Hill roundabout on slip is closed for maintenance, with motorists advised to follow the signed diversion. The A487 is shut between Gasworks and Fishguard Square roundabouts, with diversions in place. Other disruptions include a collision on Leicestershire's M1 southbound at junction 19, closing all lanes. In Surrey, a broken-down vehicle on the M23 northbound shuts one lane between junctions 9 and 8. And on the trains, there is major disruption between Milton Keynes Central and London Euston, affecting Avanti West Coast and London North Western Railway services. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
12:50 is the time. Welcome back to Good Afternoon Britain. Now, for the first time ever in history, a woman has been named Astronomer Royal.
Yes, the space physicist Professor Michelle Doherty has taken on the role after 350 years of men having the role.
Yes, she's explored the solar system and now she's advising the king on all things cosmic.
Well, we're joined by the astrophysicist at the University of Nottingham and host of the Space Mog YouTube channel, Dr. Maggie Liu. Maggie, thanks so much for being with us. I mean, Historically, the Astronomer Royal has been such an important role, whether it's winning the prime meridian for Britain, making sure that Greenwich is the centre of time in the world, or naming Halley's Comet. I mean, all of these things have come from the Astronomer Royal. But I think the last time that the Astronomer Royal did something of that significant was probably over 100 years ago.
Yeah, absolutely. Traditionally, this role was tied to being the director of the Greenwich Observatory, but now it's purely an honorary role. But it still has huge significance because the Royal Astronomer will kind of lead things in all things astronomy and advise King Charles, for example. But I think it's also important that it's a huge kind of inspiration role for people to get into STEM, and specifically young girls who tend to kind of be kind of deterred from roles in STEM because they don't see people that look like them, like women, in these big roles. This is hugely prestigious, and hopefully it will inspire more young people and young girls to get into the role. But it's not all about being women as well. Like Michelle Doherty is a fantastic scientist, right? So she was involved. She was the PI of one of the instruments on Cassini, going to Saturn's moons, and discovered, well, her team discovered that there was water vapor in the atmosphere of Saturn's moon Enceladus. And now she's also leading on a instrument on the JUICE mission that will go to Jupiter's icy moons, again to explore the potentials of life around Jupiter.
Pretty cool stuff. I mean, you as a woman yourself and as an astrophysicist, do you get a lot of young women and girls getting in touch with you, I don't know, on LinkedIn or email, asking, how can I do what you're doing?
Yes, absolutely. And I also get a lot of young girls. So I teach at the University of Nottingham, and a lot of the girls there also say, like, I don't see myself in a professorship position or staying on in academia or doing STEM because I don't see people like me. And the more women that I see in these positions, the more confident I am to be around those kind of environments.
Well, let's hope that more people are inspired, and I'd like some more discoveries for this country.
That'd be nice.
We used to be nigh on the majority of discoveries in the world. I think we've slipped down the rankings somewhat in recent years, but perhaps we can rise back up. Dr. Maggie Lu, thanks so much for joining us and talking through this historic appointment.
Oh, well, maybe Professor Michelle and Dr. Maggie can sort that out.
Yeah, I'd like to discover a new planet. I think it's about
That'd be
time.
nice, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
But yes, why are so many young Brits ready to quit the UK under Labour, including Labour voters? A bit depressing. We'll find out what the reason is after the weather.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, good morning. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Many should see a dry day ahead. Plenty of sunny spells. We can't rule out the odd shower, but where you do see any sunshine, it is going to be feeling warm. And that's all thanks to high pressure building towards the southwest. But draw your eyes to the northwest of the country, a frontal system lingering on here. So that's where we'll see the bulk of the cloud this afternoon, possibly even some light outbreaks of rain, particularly across western parts of Scotland and eventually clearing Northern Ireland. Now the odd shower, particularly across parts of the southeast, but otherwise a dry afternoon for many. Plenty of sunny spells and a mix of cloud too. Feeling warm, highs reaching around 25 degrees Celsius across the south, but even across northern areas, many towns and cities reaching the low 20s. Now, as we progress further into the evening, there's still going to be a fair amount of clouds, some light outbreaks of rain, this time pushing into central parts of Scotland, though northeastern parts of Scotland should remain mostly dry. Any rain clearing away from Northern Ireland, so it should be quite a pleasant end to the day, and fairly similar once again across the rest of England and Wales. Still a chance of the odd isolated shower across the southeast, but many should see a dry end to the day. And it remains fairly similar through the course of the evening. Still some light outbreaks of rain affecting affecting northeastern parts of Scotland, then we do just need to keep an eye on this system pushing into Wales and central parts of England as we head towards dawn. A chance we could start to see some heavy showers through the course of the morning, but for many, once again, remaining mostly dry, and it's going to be particularly mild as well. Once again, across the southeast, many lows not dropping much past 16 to 17 degrees Celsius. Now, it's really across central areas and parts of the south that is a bit of a watch point tomorrow. Some quite heavy, possibly thundery showers pushing into central and southern parts. So this could bring some hail and also some frequent lightning. So do take care if you're out and about. Also the odd shower across eastern parts of Scotland, northeastern parts of England, but elsewhere plenty of sunshine and once again feeling warm.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
It's the final week to see how you can win big, as there's an incredible £54,321 in tax-free cash to be won. What would you spend it on? The holiday of a lifetime? Or just sit back, relax and remove some of those day-to-day financial stresses? Lines close on the 1st of August, so make sure you don't miss out. For another chance to win, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB14 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
27 now. Heaven, Health and Beauty in Shropshire is celebrating the official unveiling of their royal warrant today.
Well, it's been recognised as the supplier of skincare products and treatments to Her Majesty the Queen after she first used the company's products 19 years ago. She's a loyal customer.
She is a loyal customer. Jack Carson has been getting the treatment.
I was just like, I wish my mum was here to see this.
There's a beaming smile on the face of Heaven, Health and Beauty founder Deborah Mitchell as she celebrates the unveiling of their royal warrant. Starting her business with £10 in her pocket in 1995, Deborah says she's worked from the ground up and started providing skincare treatments to Her Majesty the Queen 19 years ago. Today she says she's honoured to be a recipient of a royal warrant.
It is a feeling that you cannot explain, but I was very lucky before having the royal warrant when Camilla Parker Bowles was Camilla Parker Bowles, and I didn't tell anybody I did her treatments. It hit in the press, and then this product, which is the bee venom made from bees, makes the skin look younger using a Botox alternative.
The King and Queen have granted royal warrants to almost 400 companies that supply the royal household, with each one lasting up to 5 years. It also means those companies can display the royal arms on their products. Director and daughter of Deborah, Ella Mitchell, makes this business a family affair, and she's made sure the packaging is already getting a fresh look. Ella says she's proud the products are made in Britain.
The achievement itself, you feel proud to be British, and I think that's one of the core values of us.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Well, here we are. We are in Birmingham, bringing you live pictures as Ozzy Osbourne's Birmingham funeral is upcoming in just a few moments. We're expecting to see the procession very soon indeed. This is the heart of Birmingham. Thousands and thousands of fans there. As you can see, tributes are lining the road there.
Absolutely. You're watching and listening to Good Afternoon Britain at 1 o'clock on Wednesday, the 30th of July, with Emily Carver and me, Tom Harwood.
You are indeed. I believe we have our reporter Steve Bennett on the line, who's there in Birmingham for us. Steve, what can you hear? I can feel the anticipation building.
Yeah, incredible scenes down here. Thousands and thousands of people have turned out to pay tribute to one of their favourite sons, Ozzy Osbourne. One of those people is Noel, right next to me. Noel, why are you here today? Why was it so important for you to come down?
Celebrate Ozzy's
life, you know, it's what he's done for heavy metal, for Birmingham in particular as well. Old Astonian, you know, so it's just well loved, obviously, by the amount of people here. You can see how much he's loved, you know, so, yeah.
Really is incredible, isn't it, on 24 hours' notice, this many people to come out.
So there's tens of thousands of people here, all celebrating the one man, so, you know, Black Sabbath as well, to be fair, so definitely made a new genre of music, spanned the whole world. What more can you say?
What did he do for Birmingham, the city itself?
Well, I think, like I said, we're all proud of him because of what he took it worldwide, you know, complete genre of music nobody heard before, straight from Aston, you know, the four lads from Aston, just makes a whole Birmingham proud, so.
And not many people who didn't like Ozzy. Everyone I've spoken to in Birmingham and away from Birmingham, very popular man, wasn't he?
I think if you're not into that kind of music, you know, just his personality just spoke volumes, like, you know, for him. So it's fantastic.
No, really good speech. Thank you, mate. Enjoy the processions. That should be happening any moment behind me. Tens of thousands of people lining Broad Street here for at least a mile, as far as the eye can see. A real touching opportunity for the locals to pay tribute to one of their favourite sons, rocker Ozzy Osbourne.
Yeah, fantastic. And I imagine people have travelled far and wide as well. It won't just be Brummies there today, I'm sure. So as it stands, we know that the procession is already on its way, is it? And do you know where it's going through?
That's right, it's just about to begin at 1 o'clock and it's going to come down Broad Street here. This is the main opportunity for, like I said, the locals and the non-locals, everyone who's come into Birmingham to pay their last respects. Friends and family, particularly Ozzy's family, will be next to that procession as well, and worth noting that all the costs have been covered by the Osbournes as well to make sure that Birmingham, the city of Birmingham, had the opportunity to say their goodbyes, and then from there the procession goes on to a private funeral where we expect some celebrity guests, including Elton John, to pay their respects as well. You can hear the locals are chanting. We've had a few now people climbing on bus shelters, up on roofs to make sure they get their best spot. They all want to pay their tribute to Ozzy Osbourne.
It's so clear that Ozzy and his whole family hold Birmingham so dearly in their hearts, and certainly held Birmingham so dearly in their hearts too. I mean, covering those costs for what will no doubt be a significant security operation today. I mean, all of those people, it won't come cheap to police that, to host that for the city. But also, of course, that amazing amount of money that was raised by Ozzy Osbourne in his final concert just a few weeks ago, just 2 weeks before his death. I mean, that money raised for charities, for locals, is such a huge legacy to the area.
Incredible. Every single penny of that concert, back to the beginning concert at Villa Park, every single penny went to local charities. $200 million, so I think that's about £140 million. That is incredible. What a thing to do. Organise a concert of that size, not only to say his goodbyes to Birmingham, pay his respects, his tributes to the city that made him, but to give all that money to charity so that people just like him can have better treatment, can suffer less. He didn't do it on any medication. He wanted to feel the moment. First time he's played Villa Park, his home football team. Really incredible scenes, and it's even more incredible now that we know that just a few days later, 17 days later, he sadly passed.
So Ozzy Osbourne's coffin is going to be driven along Broad Street. It's then going to pause at the Black Sabbath Bridge for obvious reasons, and for more fans to gather there as well. And there is going to be a private funeral, isn't there? But it's going to be star-studded, isn't it, Steve?
Exactly that. So the Black Sabbath Bridge is just to my right, just down here, and already thousands of people are already there. They've been there since the early hours, and as you said, then it goes on to a private funeral. We expect celebrities like Elton John to be in attendance, you know, fellow musicians, fellow rockers who want to pay their respects as well to a man who, as the locals have been telling me, really created the industry, really created metal music and put not only the music on the map, but put Birmingham on the map, and it's something he has not forgotten, hence why this is happening today. And it really does feel like a two-way relationship between the fans and between the Osbournes, a remarkable atmosphere here so that everybody can really celebrate the life of a fantastic man.
I mean, it is just astonishing to see the scale of how many people have been touched by Ozzy Osbourne's music. I mean, let's not forget, he was someone who did not come from sort of the most well-to-do family. There's no reason you'd have expected him to become the global megastar that he did, that he became. I mean, he rose up through grit, determination, and above all else, talent to become this icon on both sides of the Atlantic and indeed further around the world as well. A true son of Birmingham who has clearly left a legacy not just in this England's second city, but also right around the world.
Yeah, transcended music, really. I'm sure we can all remember they had a reality show, The Osbournes, if you remember that. Probably the first proper reality show. Wasn't scripted, we just saw the family, we peeled back the curtain and we saw what life was like for the Osbournes, and it was incredible. And you could see from there what a gentle man he was, how kind he was, how he just went about his business. He was just such a humble man, never forgot his early beginnings here in Birmingham, and even more reason to come back now. And I just saw an episode of The Osbournes recently where he crashed his quad bike and almost killed himself, you know, here on his British estate that he has here, you know, in this country. And he always made it very clear how proud he was to be English, to be British, very patriotic. So much for the music industry, so much for this city, Birmingham, like you said, England's second city. And just that gesture of giving back all that money to charity to make sure that other people have better treatment than him, suffer less than him. That is, I mean, that's more than music, isn't it? That is something that, what a thing to do, to put on an emotional concert like that, which made it even more poignant that 17 days later he passed, knowing all that money went to help other people less fortunate than himself. Incredible. And we can just see the procession is coming down now to my left. You might be able to see live pictures of that. The opportunity for now these locals who've been waiting all morning to pay their respects to a really great, not just a musician, but a great man and his family flanking that procession. Emotional day for them, no doubt, for Sharon, for Jack, for Kelly. Great. And as I mentioned earlier, the atmosphere is something I've never really sensed before. Everybody wants to talk to us. Everybody wants to share their anecdotes of Ozzy Osbourne, what he meant to them, what he meant to their family, how he got them into music, how he put Birmingham on the map. Wonderful, a really wonderful celebratory atmosphere. We all knew that Ozzy wasn't very well, but still came as a shock for him to pass at 76.
And the fashion.
Who's ever ready for that? Who's ever ready for a legend? Exactly. Who's ever ready for a legend of that kind to pass? So you might
it is so interesting, Steve, to hear the music. Yeah. The sort of, it's not a celebration, it's a commemoration, but of course people, I suppose, feel that Ozzy got to say his own goodbye. Of course it's a moment of sadness for so many people, but also it was such a fitting end to such a legend. I suppose that sort of somewhat explains the strange atmosphere around you, people singing along, people getting along, in a way perhaps you might not normally expect of a funeral procession.
You're absolutely right, and there's been so many sound bites from that final concert, the Back to the Beginning concert, where he was talking about it being his last one. He wanted to say his goodbyes. It's almost like he knew it was coming. You know, he knew that the end potentially was coming, as potentially his family did as well, and he really put on a show without any drugs, any medication, so that he could say his proper goodbyes to his adoring fans here in Birmingham. At the football club he loved the most, Aston Villa. First time he played that ground as well. And as you said, explains the atmosphere that we're feeling here. Everybody really is celebrating his life, honoured to be here, to be part of it. The rows of people, it's 25 deep all the way down Broad Street here. Tens of thousands of people, some skiving off work, and rightly so. You can hear the chanting, a great atmosphere here on Broad Street as they see that procession pass down. And it is...
Here he comes.
It's very difficult to explain the emotion here. But we can just see it over our left shoulder here.
Yeah, Steve, we're looking at pictures now of flashing lights of those motorcyclists, that police escort ahead of the procession going past what we can see to be incredibly thick crowds of people leaning over the barriers there, trying to get their glimpse of really a moment of history for their city. Birmingham doing a final send-off to one of its most famous sons. The music clearly ringing in the air, and the cheers of the audience, the chants of the audience too. As you say, Steve, that celebration of life.
absolutely that. It's just passing us immediately behind us now. The crowd are chanting, as you can hear. A real celebration. Roses are being thrown onto the procession. An opportunity, a rare opportunity. For a lot of these people said to me they would have wanted to have met Ozzy, to meet the family. They got the chance to do that before he passed, sadly. And this is their one chance to really show them, show the family, show Ozzy what he meant, not just to Birmingham, not just to music, but to the world. An incredible moment, an atmosphere like no other, to be honest. I've seen nothing like this. So rare to have a man so adored like Ozzy Osbourne.
Oh, you could
Great moment for the
absolutely
family.
feel the love.
Let's put this on.
You could absolutely feel the love, the cheering, the Ozzy, Ozzy, Ozzy chants, the huge number of people, everyone trying to get to the front so they can see as much as possible. It is really remarkable watching this, Steve.
It's remarkable being part of it. You know, we are in the crowds here. We're not in any media pen. We're right in amongst it with the people. You can really get a sense of the atmosphere. And as you saw, some of the fans we were speaking to earlier, the Ozzy Osbourne fans, just couldn't speak highly enough of the man and then of the family and what he's done for metal music, for Birmingham, for the music industry in general, and putting Britain on the map. We talk all the time about, you know, being proud to be English, and Ozzy certainly was one of those. And the people around here feel that too. You know, we sometimes can be guilty of losing our patriotism, and today we haven't lost it, as Ozzy Osbourne symbolises all that is great to be English, and the fans here really, really appreciate the opportunity to say their goodbyes to this great man.
And we're just seeing this marching band ahead of the hearse carrying the coffin of Ozzy Osbourne. We know that his family, of course, are marching alongside Sharon Osbourne, of course, his children Jack, Kelly, Amy and Louis, all travelling in cars behind this hearse. But that marching band presenting music as flowers are thrown on top of that hearse as it travels past those fans, getting their final glimpse of a man who clearly holds hero status, not just in this city, but in so many parts of the world too. The procession stopping and starting, going slowly so everyone can have their chance to say goodbye, to have their last moment with such a titan of Birmingham and a titan of the music industry too. Steve, we've heard some of that music from the marching band. Give us a flavour of what's around you. Are people throwing flowers?
Exactly. We've had people in tears. I've seen grown men crying here. I've seen roses being thrown onto the procession. Everyone's now just moving down to follow the procession, to get closer to it, maybe get a final look. The chanting hasn't stopped. People on rooftops, telephone boxes, bus shelters. A really fantastic atmosphere of people celebrating a man who transcended music and really put Birmingham.
Steve, I'm going to interrupt you. We can see the Osbourne family, including Sharon Osbourne. I think we've seen Kelly Osbourne there as well, perhaps Jack. They've stepped out of the car behind the hearse and they're walking towards Black Sabbath Bridge there to lay their own flowers. Flowers that are shrouded in black paper by the looks of it. It's a very fitting tribute to, of course, the Prince of Darkness. So they're the family, Sharon Osbourne, Jack, Kelly, Amy and Louis, all laying down their flowers, their tributes to Sharon for her husband and for the children for their father.
Yeah, they're going to be taking a moment or two to read some of those tributes as well. It must be incredibly moving to just see the outpouring of love. There'll be so many personalised notes there, people remembering moments where the music has got them through, or memories that they have of Ozzy Osbourne. I'm sure they'll take a few minutes to just see what people have laid there in tribute of their loved one, Steve.
Yes, absolutely that. And we mentioned it earlier, the Osbournes picking up the costs of this. I was noticed the locals had here. As you said, imagine the cost of that. They wanted to make sure that everybody had the opportunity to pay their respects, and to a man who was bigger than the music industry, transcended it, and part of that band, Black Sabbath, which he was later fired from, went out on his own and then reunited with Black Sabbath, particularly in his final concert back to the beginning, just down the road at Villa Park here in Birmingham. And everybody just really pleased to be part of this event, to have the opportunity to see that procession, to see the family, pay their respects, and it's no surprise that the Osbournes stepped out of that vehicle there to be amongst the people. They very much consider themselves a family of the people. It feels like that too. The fans, the supporters I've spoken to, they always said that even though Ozzy broke America, let's be honest, lived over there for a lot of his adult life, broke America, never forgot where he came from, never forgot Birmingham, never forgot Aston Villa, and that's why he wanted to come back here in his final moments, not just his concert, but his procession today. So
Sharon
really
Osbourne
incredible
there, holding
scenes.
up a peace sign to the crowds there, visibly upset Sharon Osbourne, who stayed with Ozzy Osbourne, that was such a power couple throughout their years at the top of the entertainment industry. Really remarkable that given Ozzy Osbourne had such a public and chaotic life in so many ways, that partnership, Ozzy and Sharon, endured till the end. Really moving there to see Sharon in particular, but also the family, the children, and some former bandmates as well, responding so readily to the crowd, responding to that outpouring of emotion, of love, of feeling that we saw there across Broad Street.
OK, well, let's speak to Pete Waterman, music producer who worked with Black Sabbath. He's on the line. Pete, just watching this footage here of the procession going through central Birmingham, we've caught sight of the family there, reading tributes, being there with the crowds. Incredibly emotional day, a huge amount of love and adoration, isn't there, Pete?
Yeah, I mean, you can see from Sharon, she's devastated, and my heartfelt condolences go out to all of them, because he was a wonderful bloke. I mean, you know, I've known him since the 60s, you know, when we gigged together regularly. He was a real character, and, you know, he had a warmth and a fun element that lasted up to the last concert. I mean, you know, and he would love this. I mean, he was all about his public. That's what he did. He was a showman. And there's very few people now that are that showman. People just don't do this anymore. You know, he'd probably get banned if he tried to do what he'd been doing. But
yeah, I mean, there are so many.
Is sadder.
No, sorry, Pete, do go on.
Entertainment today is sadder than it was 2 weeks ago. We've lost a great ambassador for entertainment. He was magic.
And you can really get a sense of that magic there, just from the thick crowds of people on this an overcast Wednesday afternoon. People lining the streets there of Birmingham, outpouring their love, not just to Ozzy, but to his family too. And as you say, such a moving moment to see the whole family there stop, read some of those messages that have been left by people over the course of the last week or so, lay their own flowers, appropriately flowers that have black paper around them, wearing black, of course, as so many of the fans are as well. But while so many funerals might seem like sad affairs, and of course this is too, there's also such a strange atmosphere of joy and of love.
Us Midlands is a funny bunch of people, and Ozzy was one of us. And, you know, no matter where he went in the world, he never lost that accent. And, you know, he never lost his sense of humour. His sense of humour was amazing. I mean, Sharon posted a picture last week of him meeting Donny Osmond when the Osmonds were massive. I mean, there couldn't be opposite of Pens. And he's embracing, you know, Donny Osmond. That's the sort of guy he was. He loved entertainment.
Yeah, absolutely. We're just watching the procession move on there with the family as well. I mean, Sharon Osbourne was visibly in tears, clearly full of emotion, understandably. It must be so difficult mourning in front of the world.
I couldn't do it. I've got to be honest, I couldn't do it. I think Sharon's incredibly brave, and it also shows, by the way, just how close that her and Ozzy Osbourne were. Despite everything you read and despite all of the stories that have come out over the years, this is an incredible moment when you stand next to this procession and with the people giving you the adulation. This must be very difficult.
And look at that, all the people in the crowds with their rock-on sign, their hands in the air as the procession moves off from where we are currently in the central Birmingham. There will be a private funeral. Pete, I don't know if you know, but presumably there'll be a very large guest list full of celebrities and his bandmates, presumably.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, because that's what they want to celebrate, you know.
Yeah.
The thing is, we've lost the body, we haven't lost the person. Because Ozzy Osbourne will live far longer as a memory than he ever did as a body. You know, his myth is phenomenal, and that myth will last at least 60 to 70 more years. And that's a tribute to Ozzy Osbourne.
I mean, it's just remarkable. I remember on the day that he died, just the number of anecdotes people had, both the ones that were publicly known and the ones that were less publicly known, how he behaved behind the scenes in front of the camera, on the stage, whether it was biting the head off a bat or talking to a horse while on LSD. I mean, all of these different stories just came forward, and I think everyone has a different one that sort of sticks in their mind. Just before we leave you, Pete, do you have a lasting memory of Ozzy Osbourne, a personal memory perhaps?
Yeah, the early days. I mean, you know, I brought Sharon over to do Pop Stars Arrivals. So unfortunately, she fell ill, and I brought in Louis Walsh. But I worked for Sharon's dad, so you know, I spoke to Ozzy at that point. You know, so yeah, I remember him. You know, in those days in the 70s, late 60s, when we were playing. You know, I was doing gigs in Birmingham as a DJ, and they were around, and everybody knew who they were. And I remember getting the first advanced copy of Paranoid, and I just thought, wow. I mean, it wasn't the sort of stuff I could play. Whoa, what a record.
It really is, and we've been rediscovering some of Black Sabbath in the breaks because some of those tunes, they are pretty good, aren't they?
Oh,
pretty extraordinary.
The kind of things that you might not even know that you know, but then of course you know them.
Fantastic, fantastic music. Pete Waterman, really appreciate your time this afternoon. It must be difficult to look back on his life sometimes. Thank you very much indeed on a day like this. Pete Waterman, music producer there, who knew Ozzy Osbourne back in the day when he was just starting out.
Yeah, no, incredible stuff.
I love the fashion as well. You know, they're all there in their leather and the piercings and the tattoos. I wonder how many of those fans there in Birmingham have a little Black Sabbath tattoo or even Ozzy's face.
Yes, no, we have seen
the real
those.
fans.
Absolutely. Well, goodness me, let's take a breath now. It is, of course, the final week to see if you could become £54,321 richer. There we go. In our biggest cash giveaway to date. It's, of course, tax-free. It all ends this Friday. Here are the details.
There's only 2 days left to see how you could be our biggest cash winner to date. £54,321 in tax-free cash is up for grabs in our summer Great British giveaway. Cash to spend on anything you like. All of that cash could send you on a holiday, boost your savings, or just send some of those day-to-day financial stresses packing. You have to hurry, as lines close at 4 p.m. on Friday. For another chance to win, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB14 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
You've read the headlines, you've heard what those in power have to say. How about now we actually get to the truth?
They would pay attention.
We go beyond the political theatre and tell you what's really going on behind the scenes. For a massive council tax hike, one of the biggest in the UK. Others follow their lines, but we go off script.
You sound like a broken record. You say that week after week.
Cutting through the narratives and giving you unique perspectives. That's Ben Leo tonight, Saturdays and Sundays from 9 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it?
No,
Because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there short and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's 27 minutes past 1. Now, GB News can exclusively reveal that multiple lifeboats have been called out to help with chaotic scenes in the English Channel, as more than 500 small boat migrants attempt to cross over to the United Kingdom.
Yes, every French border patrol vessel in the region, along with a number of French lifeboats, are currently escorting multiple migrant dinghies towards the UK. Now, if those currently in the Channel make it to UK waters, it will take the number of migrants who have made the illegal crossing so far this year beyond the 25,000 mark.
Well, joining us now is our Home and Security Editor, Mark White. Mark, this is a scene that sadly has not become alien. Has not become alien to our waters, but perhaps we haven't seen so much in the last week or so due to the weather, picking up again today.
Yes, you're right. It's a subject we haven't really, with everything that's been going on with President Trump's visit and alike, not really been concentrating on what's been happening in the Channel, but a very significant day of migrant crossings today, a surge because of an improvement in the weather overnight that has seen very significant numbers of migrants now attempting to cross the Channel. Some have already made it. We're estimating more than 500. At this stage, it's likely to increase. We've got latest images that we can show you from Dover Harbour, from our producer, Chris, down in Dover Harbour. This is the Dover lifeboat that's coming in, supported by another lifeboat, rigid inflatable. And on board this one lifeboat alone were 74 migrants. And also just behind that lifeboat coming in were another 2 Border Force vessels, Defender and Volunteer. And on those Border Force vessels, we don't have the numbers yet because effectively what's happening is they're stacking up at Dover Harbour. There's so many boats coming in. These are the 2 Border Force vessels at the moment, but our producer is telling us that from what he can see on the long end of the lens, both of these vessels appear to have double loads on. So what that means is they have picked up migrants from 2 migrant boats. So that's going to take it over 100 on each boat easily. And so you can see how the numbers are climbing up, and still out there in the channel in the process of being picked up or being escorted over to UK waters are multiple other small boats. And this just a selection of those coming off that Dover lifeboat there. As always, the vast majority that we can see appear to be young men arriving here in Dover. And over the last week, as I say, we've not really touched on this issue, and the weather hasn't been that great, but even though the weather has been quite changeable and it's been a bit rough in the channel, we've had 1,000 small boat migrants who've come across the channel in just 7 days. And again today, at least another 500 crossing the channel. It will, if all those that cross and more cross the channel, take us over 25,000 for the year. Another grim milestone that will make really uncomfortable reading for a Prime Minister that just stood up 2 days ago in front of the President of the United States and told the world how his administration was smashing the gangs. Well, it's clear for all to see that actually the opposite is the case. Not smashing the gangs, more numbers, record numbers, are crossing the English Channel.
It's just crazy.
And
it's just crazy.
Looking at these images, as always, so regimented, so organised, so facilitated. The state so ready, almost facilitating this industry of people coming across. Everyone knows the part they have to play in this. The people smugglers, the French Coast Guard, our Coast Guards, our Border Force, and indeed our Home Office, getting involved in this constant merry-go-round, this circus, where we pretend this thing is illegal, and then the people get here and we give them a free hotel room. I mean, it's just astonishing. Mark, we're going to catch up with you for a lot longer in the next hour as we see further footage.
Can I just say one point on that, though, on the regimented, but you're absolutely right, it should work like clockwork. But today, the sheer numbers in the channel have been absolutely chaotic. Border Force completely caught out. They did not have the resources with 3 Border Force vessels out there to be able to cope, and they called in lifeboats from Dover, from Walmer, from Dungeness, and from Ramsgate. All of those resources required, or they just would not have. Well, they couldn't cope.
Just total scenes out there. Mark White, thank you very much indeed for reporting on that for us. It's just crazy, isn't it? Just seeing those men just lined up. Just lined up. They know what they're getting when they get here, and they're going to get it.
And it's not just hundreds of men on those boats. Think of it as this, hundreds of hotel rooms. I mean, millions of pounds of taxpayers' money.
And how many Channel migrants have been deported?
Oh, very few.
Close to 0, I think it is.
Well, from one kind of boat to another, perhaps
a luxury yacht.
Yes, well, a Greek island, a luxury yacht and a royal mystery. Locals say the Wales family were holidaying off the Greek island of Kefalonia earlier this month, but the palace has kept quiet.
Yes, a retired civil servant says she swam close enough to see them with her own eyes, and the locals agree.
So is it time we expected more transparency from our royals, or are they entitled to privacy?
OK, we're joined by royal and showbiz journalist Sarah Louise Robertson. Sarah, should the royals just tell us when they're on holiday? I mean, what are they trying to hide? We know they're rich.
I think it's a difficult one, isn't it? Because I suppose the public will think, well, they are funded by the taxpayers. Thereby, we have a public interest in knowing where they are. But I think given what Kate has gone through, the Princess of Wales, in this last couple of years with her cancer diagnosis, and also having young children as well, I think sometimes they should be afforded a little degree of privacy when it comes to holiday time. This was a private trip that they supposedly took to the Greek islands of Kefalonia and Ithaca. They apparently were seen on board a super yacht, although the palace has yet to confirm whether this is the case. So there's a lot of rumour and conjecture going around at the moment. But in terms of the holidays, I mean, we have seen before when they have gone away, they're very famous for going to the island of Mystique. Kate's been going for a number of years since she was a young girl. There was times when her and William would party in Ibiza, and that would be in the tabloids. But I think now, as they are, you know, they are going to be the future king and queen, and I think they are allowed a little bit of privacy. King Charles has his time in Romania, Transylvania, where he goes painting and no one sees him over there. That's his time. And Balmoral as well.
Is there a difficulty here? Because, of course, the British press is almost under a different set of rules to the international press.
Yes, we can't
always
report.
see this. We always see this.
Exactly, Tom. Thank you for saying that, because we, it's sort of like a tacit understanding, shall we say, that we respect their private time in that instance. I mean, you remember those years of Princess Diana, and she'd be swimming out, wouldn't she, to the waiting paparazzi on boats, and it was... You can't imagine that now. It was a different time. And so after that, the British press stepped back. But we can't stop the foreign press, and they just go for it, which is why all these reports, when it was happening earlier on in July the 16th, I believe it was, they just went to town on this, and we stayed silent on it all.
I mean, if I were a Republican and I was anti-monarchist, I would say this is an outrage. We're paying for it all. We should know if they're staying in some five-star luxury yacht
are we paying
for millions of pounds,
or
if they're being gifted it, or if they're being gifted it. That's even more important.
We don't know for sure, but it's turning out from the investigation that's been done recently that it wasn't anything to do with the Saudi royal family, and it wasn't anything to do with the Emirati sheikhs either. Apparently, this yacht that they supposedly have been seen on, and it's still not confirmed by the palace, was one of these new eco-yachts, which is in keeping with Prince William's green credentials. And
no such thing as an eco-yacht.
Well, you know, he's obviously with the Earthshot Prize, so it's keeping in with his green credentials. It was made in San Lorenzo, and it's one of the world's first eco super yachts.
Zero carbon emissions.
Exactly.
Let's not talk about the carbon emissions to building the thing.
That would make sense, but I don't know who the owner of that yacht is, who that belongs to. But, I mean, obviously, William doesn't own it himself.
It's a shame, really, that our royal family no longer has a yacht of their own.
Well, exactly.
I mean, the royal yacht Britannia would have been a perfect thing for them to have, but sadly...
of the Queen crying.
Despite the decades-long campaign of our political editor, Christopher Hope, who always, every chance he gets, asks the Prime Minister, when is the royal family going to get their royal yacht back? Sadly, we've not been able to afford this gift to the royal family as a nation.
Oh, it keeps me up at night. It was heartbreaking when that was taken away. And they're losing the royal train as well.
Yeah.
So I think we can allow them to have some private time as a family and go away. Look, the holiday's done now. They're back here. We saw William with Princess Charlotte watching the Lionesses. So they are now back on home turf. They're back in the UK.
Sometimes I think the royal family's a bit hard done by. You look at their personal wealth compared to the personal wealth of, you know, the Saudi monarchy or the Spanish monarchy even, because the Crown Estate is not the personal wealth of the royal family.
They're doing all right.
They're quite low down on the list of royal families in the world in terms of how much money they have.
They're doing all right. Other people pay for things, don't they?
It's a point of patriotism, isn't it?
Exactly.
Sarah Louise Robertson, thank you very much. We'll have to leave it there. Yes, so let's get out the begging bowl for the royal family. Let's see, whip around. Anyway, this is Good Afternoon Britain on GBNews coming up. Why are so many young Brits ready to quit the United Kingdom under this Labour government? We'll reveal all after the news.
Very good afternoon. The latest headlines from the GB newsroom. Fans are saying goodbye to Ozzy Osbourne today as thousands lined Broad Street in Birmingham to pay their respects to the heavy metal legend. Hawaii, Japan and Russia have lifted all tsunami warnings after a massive earthquake triggered warnings around the Pacific region earlier today. The 8.8 magnitude quake is the 6th strongest ever recorded. And the backlash is growing over the Prime Minister's plan to formally recognise the state of Palestine in September at the UN meeting in New York, with Israel's Prime Minister accusing the PM of monstrous terrorism. Multiple lifeboats have been called out to help with the chaotic scenes in the English Channel today, as more than 500 small boat migrants attempt to cross to the UK. As one senior maritime security source told GB News, the situation out there is complete chaos. And history has been made with Professor Michelle Doherty becoming the first woman ever appointed Astronomer Royal. Approved by the King, she takes on the role created originally to help solve the mystery of longitude at sea. Those are the headlines for now. More news at the top of the hour.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Hello there, good morning. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Many should see a dry day ahead. Plenty of sunny spells. We can't rule out the odd shower, but where you do see any sunshine, it is going to be feeling warm. And that's all thanks to high pressure building towards the southwest. But draw your eyes to the northwest of the country, a frontal system lingering on here. So that's where we'll see the bulk of the cloud this afternoon, possibly even some light outbreaks of rain, particularly across western parts of Scotland and eventually clearing Northern Ireland. Now the odd shower, particularly across parts of the southeast, but otherwise a dry afternoon for many. Plenty of sunny spells and a mix of cloud too. Feeling warm, highs reaching around 25 degrees Celsius across the south, but even across northern areas, many towns and cities reaching the low 20s. Now, as we progress further into the evening, there's still going to be a fair amount of clouds, some light outbreaks of rain, this time pushing into central parts of Scotland, though northeastern parts of Scotland should remain mostly dry. Any rain clearing away from Northern Ireland, so it should be quite a pleasant end to the day, and fairly similar once again across the rest of England and Wales. Still a chance of the odd isolated shower across the southeast, but many should see a dry end to the day. And it remains fairly similar through the course of the evening. Still some light outbreaks of rain affecting northeastern parts of Scotland. Then we do just need to keep an eye on this system pushing into Wales and central parts of England as we head towards dawn. A chance we could start to see some heavy showers through the course of the morning. But for many, once again, remaining mostly dry. And it's going to be particularly mild as well. Once again, across the southeast, many lows not dropping much past 16 to 17 degrees Celsius. Now, it's really across central areas and parts of the south that is a bit of a watch point tomorrow. Some quite heavy, possibly thundery showers pushing into central and southern parts. So this could bring some hail and also some frequent lightning. So do take care if you're out and about. Also the odd shower across eastern parts of Scotland, northeastern parts of England. But elsewhere, plenty of sunshine and once again, feeling warm.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good afternoon. This is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. The A720 eastbound at the Baberton Junction is restricted due to a lane breakdown. In Rotherham, a collision on the M1 northbound between junctions 30 and 31 causes lane closures and 30-minute delays. The A487 between Gasworks Roundabout and Fishguard Square is closed for maintenance and diversions. M25 anti-clockwise between junctions 6 and 5 in Surrey has partial lane closures. And on the trains, Avanti West Coast and London North Western Railway services between Milton Keynes Central and London Euston face major disruption, with reduced services between Bedford and Bletchley. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's coming up to 1:45. Now, a majority of young adults in the United Kingdom have contemplated leaving Britain during Labour's time in office. This a new finding from a think tank.
Yes, they've only been in office for about a year. What's going on here? Those aged between 18 to 30 cited deep anxieties over housing, finances and their long-term prospects, describing themselves as overburdened, underhoused and overlooked.
I think there's a meme for that involves Nick, 30 years old, with head in his hands. Is this government failing young people in Britain? Well, the operations manager at the Adam Smith Institute joins us now, Jasper Austell. Jasper, thanks for being with us. Is this a real concern that Britain is facing a brain drain?
Hi, thanks for having me. Yeah, no, it absolutely is. So the Adam Smith Institute has done some new polling looking at how young people feel about their prospects in the economy. And it shows that around a quarter of young people are already contemplating leaving or are already planning to. It also shows that over half of them think that their age group is financially struggling, and crucially, 2/3 think that it's going to become harder to find a house and buy a house in the next 5 years than it's going to get easier. And what that shows is that there is a damning lack of confidence in the UK economy from young people. And so there's the risk of a brain drain is absolutely real, because if you're young, if you're ambitious, if you're talented, and if you're looking for economies and places to start a career, you want to look at places which will give you more than you give back. And if things are too expensive and wages are too low, you will look elsewhere. And that's the diagnosis that young people are increasingly coming to when they look at the British economy. So yes, the risk of a brain drain is really real.
What would you say to perhaps some of our older viewers and listeners who might say, you kids, you never had it so good, you know, just buck up your ideas, pull your socks up, get to work like we did. Stop complaining.
Yeah, this sounds like an argument I have with my grandmother sometimes. And what
Who
I tell
wins?
her is, yes, and what I tell her is that yes, there are some parts of the youth today who have it better, but a majority of young people are finding it more and more difficult with the crucial things that they want to do. The main one is housing. Back in around the 70s and the 60s, the average house price to annual wage ratio was only 4 times. Now it's 8 times. So you would have to save 8 times your annual wage just to purchase a house, which shows that house prices are becoming increasingly expensive and impossible for young people to match. And when confronted with the YIMBY movements and the lower cost of housing in places like Houston, Texas, and America more broadly, it's no surprise that young people are looking offshore and abroad for places where they can find houses to buy and live in.
Yeah, I mean, it is just stark to look at... back in 2007, I think it was, the GDP per capita in this country was equivalent to that of the United States. Now it's 40% lower.
Yeah, we're poor now.
I mean, but it's not just this country. Right across Europe, you've had very, very low growth since the financial crisis, whereas countries like the United States have just got richer and richer and richer. What have we done wrong?
Excellent. This is what we think about every day. What have we got wrong? Well, it's a strange mosaic and constellation of different issues, but I'd say the two main ones are being far too highly taxed and far too highly regulated. We've basically made it illegal to invest in our country, invest in things like transport and infrastructure, energy and housing, which are the core metrics that allow for an economy to be dynamic, to grow, and to lift up the bottom line. America has historically had a much more deregulatory environment and usually much lower taxes in specific sectors.
Yeah, and they get things done quicker, don't they, as a result?
Exactly.
Jasper, we'll have to leave it there. I hope all these young people don't leave. I mean, cling on a little longer. Things can only get better, eh? Jasper Hospital, thank you very much indeed, Operations Manager at the Adam Smith Institute. That's the last thing we need. You know, we've just been showing all these people coming over on small boats, and then you've got, you know, young, great minds looking to America and God knows where else.
Yeah, well,
Dubai, great,
I was about to say, if they all leave, at least the house prices might come down.
Oh,
but
great,
actually,
yeah,
no,
what cost?
Just replacing, you know, the high-capacity go-getting people with people that are reliant on state handouts.
Isn't that wonderful?
What a trade.
Future taxpayers.
Well, if you're in search of getting out of here, just like the under 30s, well, here's the weather in Europe.
Can't wait to get in that sea.
Lovely and warm.
Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
The heat wave is now easing across parts of Greece and also parts of Turkey, but elsewhere across Europe, still some humid air creating thundery downpours. But across the west, particularly across Portugal, Spain, most of France, it's largely dry, plenty of sunshine. But across parts of Germany, northern parts of Italy, still a chance of some quite intense thundery downpours. And also still across parts of Greece and Bulgaria, we could start to see some outbreaks of rain. But otherwise, for the large majority, plenty of sunshine and warm temperatures.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Westminster, the ultimate clique.
And you're fighting like rats in a sack.
But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel. I'm Michelle Dewberry, and this is GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
Oh, yes, I've got a bit of an update on this. So, you know, Steve Jobs' daughter is getting married this weekend. We talked about it earlier on in the week.
Yes,
Eve Jobs.
They're hiring the entire Cotswolds.
Yeah, we've got more details now.
Oh.
They're taking over the village of Great Chew. And apparently the budget is said to be $5 million. Could be a lot more, though.
$5 million?
Yeah,
because the papers were saying 50 million the other day.
$5 million could be higher.
For them.
But the high-end guest list includes Kamala Harris, Bono, the Kardashians and Princess Beatrice. Rumours as well that David Cameron's been invited.
Oh. But they can't know all these people.
They've invited 500 people. So it's a big wedding.
It's just like...
Apparently the village is in lockdown.
No, it will be.
Yeah, and they're going to Estelle Manor afterwards, which is a big, like, Jacobean manor house in the Cotswolds. And they've got sniffer dogs out already.
Wow.
It's incredible.
Of all those people, I bet they only know Bono.
But didn't you think the
Everybody
same
knows Bono, don't they?
Well, no, but at least he was involved with Apple. He must have known Steve Jobs.
Was he involved with Apple?
Yeah, because they had all the... Do you remember they had the U2 exclusive iPods and
Oh,
things when
of
they
course.
first
Yeah.
launched. So he must have known... So he probably knew her as a kid.
Yeah.
I wonder if they're going to give away Apple products.
Probably.
Oh, yeah. You know the
It's the goodie bag. You'll get a goodie bag.
At the end, yeah, like an iPad or
So you've got a goodie bag at your wedding.
Or a MacBook. I know, but you had the free-flowing rosé, which you don't drink.
I don't drink.
Anyway. Did you not try the non-alcoholic version?
Of rosé?
Yeah.
I didn't know there was one.
I covered all fronts.
I didn't know there was one.
Oh, well, you missed out.
I had some non-alcoholic beers.
Well, good. I did provide.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain was once the envy of the world, but look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m, only on GB News.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's just gone 10 to 2. Now, a Yemeni migrant has been spared prison despite being caught with child abuse videos and media of bestiality on his mobile phone.
Nice. Yes, when going through the asylum process, 26-year-old Osama al-Haddad, his phone was searched.
Now, he won't be deported due to concerns he'd be forced to fight for the Houthis if he was sent back to Yemen. So instead, he's in this country.
Yeah, and he's been pictured giving thumbs up to everyone. Yeah, I'm here to stay, guys.
Absolutely. No prison, no deportation, nothing.
No, nothing. And so this man, 26, yes, from Yemen, he came to the UK on a student visa, OK, but then claimed asylum. Now, this is an interesting route, isn't it? Come as a student and then claim asylum once you're here, and the chances of you being deported back to the Yemen are absolutely slim to none.
Yeah.
Negative.
Yeah.
Negative chance.
Even if you're found with child abuse imagery on your mobile phone, and I believe it was either pictures or a video of someone having sex with a goat.
Yeah, so he no fixed address, admitted 3 counts of making indecent photos of children, 1 count of making a pseudo-photograph of a child. He claimed to have no sexual interest in children. The images were sent to him by a friend, OK. He was sentenced to 30 weeks, suspended for a year. And he's doing 150 hours of unpaid work, apparently. At least that's the order.
So he's doing some unpaid work, but he's not being deported and he's not going to prison.
So that's nice, isn't it? Yeah. So come on a student visa, claim asylum, you're caught with hideous imagery of children, sexual nature, and also bestiality. I mean, that's just grim.
Do you ever think, Emily, that some parts of the world have a slightly different attitude to sexual things than people in sort of developed Western nations do?
Oh, I don't know if you can say that, Tom. Just got to assume that everyone has the same standards.
I'm not sure. Not sure the data bears that out.
Well, there you go. There's a nice little tidbit for you. Another example of bonkers Britain. Anyway, we've got a lot more coming up. Yes, there are some new rules coming from Brussels that apparently we're going to adopt. We'll reveal all next after the weather.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, good morning. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Many should see a dry day ahead, plenty of sunny spells. We can't rule out the odd shower, but where you do see any sunshine, it is going to be feeling warm. And that's all thanks to high pressure building towards the southwest. But draw your eyes to the northwest of the country, a frontal system lingering on here. So that's where we'll see the bulk of the cloud this afternoon, possibly even some light outbreaks of rain, particularly across western parts of Scotland and eventually clearing Northern Ireland. Now the odd shower, particularly across parts of the southeast, but otherwise a dry afternoon for many. Plenty of sunny spells and a mix of cloud too. Feeling warm, highs reaching around 25 degrees Celsius across the south, but even across northern areas, many towns and cities reaching the low 20s. Now, as we progress further into the evening, there's still going to be a fair amount of clouds, some light outbreaks of rain, this time pushing into central parts of Scotland, though northeastern parts of Scotland should remain mostly dry. Any rain clearing away from Northern Ireland, so it should be quite a pleasant end to the day, and fairly similar once again across the rest of England and Wales. Still a chance of the odd isolated shower across the southeast, but many should see a dry end to the day. And it remains fairly similar through the course of the evening. Still some light outbreaks of rain affecting northeastern parts of Scotland. Then we do just need to keep an eye on this system pushing into Wales and central parts of England as we head towards dawn. A chance we could start to see some heavy showers through the course of the morning. But for many, once again, remaining mostly dry. And it's going to be particularly mild as well. Once again, across the southeast, many lows not dropping much past 16 to 17 degrees Celsius. Now, it's really across central areas and parts of the south that is a bit of a watch point tomorrow. Some quite heavy, possibly thundery showers pushing into central and southern parts. So this could bring some hail and also some frequent lightning. So do take care if you're out and about. Also the odd shower across eastern parts of Scotland, northeastern parts of England. But elsewhere, plenty of sunshine and once again, feeling warm.
A positive outlook through the night will power through to a bright day ahead. Boxed home battery storage, sponsors of weather on GB News.
It's the final week to see how you can win big, as there's an incredible £54,321 in tax-free cash to be won. What would you spend it on? The holiday of a lifetime? Or just sit back, relax and remove some of those day-to-day financial stresses? Lines close on the 1st of August, so make sure you don't miss out. For another chance to win, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB14 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates, 5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5. You got me. You got me good there. Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show. It's not a bad brand. Yeah. Uncensored. Very, very racy tonight. On the unpredictable. What did she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters. Real people and real lives That's what politics is all about.
The fact has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's political podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's political podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's 2 o'clock on Wednesday, the 30th of July. I'm Tom Harwood.
And I'm Emily Carver.
Now, a pathway to peace in the Middle East or a dangerous gamble?
I can confirm the UK will recognise the State of Palestine by the United Nations General Assembly in September.
OK, well, yes, Sir Keir Starmer warns Israel agree to a Gaza ceasefire or Britain will recognise a Palestinian state. Netanyahu in Israel fires back, accusing Starmer of appeasing terrorists. So, bold diplomacy or reckless brinkmanship?
And it's chaos in the Channel as over 500 migrants cross in a single day, pushing this year's total past 25,000 and overwhelming our own border force.
And a massive earthquake in eastern Russia has triggered tsunami fears across the Pacific Ocean. Hawaii's evacuation is now lifted, but dangerous tides remain. We'll have the latest warnings and what's next.
Final farewell to a heavy metal legend. Thousands line the streets of Birmingham as Ozzy Osbourne's cortege passes through his home city ahead of a private funeral this afternoon.
And you thought we left the European Union? Well, the Labour government plans to align with EU rules, and it could see new British cars fitted with breathalyzers and black boxes mandatory. Ministers say it cuts costs. Brexiteers call it a Brussels power grab.
And here's a strange one for you. The former Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and pop star Katy Perry were spotted dining together in Montreal, sparking rumours of a new power couple. Is this just dinner, or is there more to the story?
Oh, Katy Perry, yeah. Trudeau, could be a love match.
Could be fireworks.
Could be fireworks, yeah. Let's take a look at a video, though, that's sparking outrage elsewhere. The White House has been accused of mocking migrants being deported with a Jet2-style voiceover. Have a look.
Nothing beats a Jet2 holiday. And right now, you can save £50 per person. That's £200 off for a family of 4. Now, with Jet2 Holidays.
This is incredible. Jet2 isn't even a company that's operational in the United States of America.
And yet,
such is the power of meme that this particular clip that has gone viral, the sound, I should say, that has gone viral on TikTok and Instagram and all sorts of other things, and lots of people have parodied it. Now the White House has done its own version of the video.
Well, I mean, you've got to get on the trend, don't you? You've got to do it. I wonder if Jet2 have been forced to release a statement. Anyway, people are very upset about this, as you can imagine. They're saying it's disgusting. They're saying it's normal, sane government stuff, presumably in a sarcastic tone. They're saying this is proof that the world has ended and we're just living in a simulation. The actual White House account hopping on the Jet2 trend to poke fun at deportees is mind-blowing. It makes me sick.
Well, I mean, they're jumping on the zeitgeist, aren't they? I mean, this is such a huge meme that I've seen videos, actually, of people in the United States, you know, doing the voiceover word for word, and then the people that they're with are sort of, what is a Jet 2 holiday? What is
well, then
this,
you look it up, don't you?
Jet 2?
And then you book one. It's good for Jet 2.
It's good for global recognition of the pound sterling. It's good for Jess Glynn, who actually, maybe it's not good for Jess Glynn, the singer of Darling Hold My Hand, who she's been doing a series of concerts recently, and she can't get through that song without the entire audience, especially in this country, in unison chanting, "Nothing beats a Jet 2 holiday." And right now, you could save £50. That's £200 off for a family of 4.
Right, well, I think we should make our own one. And interesting that you knew the script there.
I've watched far too many of these videos.
Who's watched a lot of these, but they are quite funny, actually. Usually they're very rainy holidays, aren't they? And there's like nothing like a Jet 2 holiday.
Normally it's the voiceover as someone's being arrested on a plane or held down for being drunk and disorderly, or something is going terribly wrong, and there's just this incredibly happy background music. Nothing beats a Jet 2 holiday.
Woohoo!
Other holiday services are available.
You've got other holiday services, yes, you do. Anyway, are the White House outrageous? Let us know. Let's get the headlines for Sophia Hill.
Emily, thank you. Very good afternoon. It's just gone 2 o'clock. These are your latest headlines. Now we start with some breaking news that 2 British brothers aged 11 and 13 have drowned on a beach on a northeastern coast of Spain. Emergency services were called to Larga Beach in Salou shortly after 8:45 local time last night. The children's father, who had also entered the water, was rescued by the services, and local police, medical and fire services all attended the incident, along with a team of psychologists to assist the victims' families.
I can confirm the UK will recognise the State of Palestine by the United Nations General Assembly in September.
Keir Starmer is under fire as a British-Israeli woman who was held hostage by Hamas for more than a year said he is not standing on the right side of history after his pledge to recognise a Palestinian state. That's unless Israel allows more aid access to Gaza, stops West Bank annexation and agrees to a ceasefire and a long-term peace process. He added Hamas must also release hostages, disarm and step away from Gaza's future government. Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has hit back, accusing Keir Starmer of rewarding monstrous terrorism and warned that appeasement always fails. Meanwhile, President Donald Trump, who met the Prime Minister on Monday, claimed they didn't discuss the move, but said Sir Keir is entitled to take a position. Speaking to GB News earlier on, Shadow Foreign Secretary Dame Priti Patel said she doesn't believe this decision will help with the aid crisis.
Simply hasn't been leveraging its influence. It hasn't been at the negotiating table. It's not really done anything in terms of making sure that we're stepping up to release the hostages, ensure that Hamas has no future role to play. All the British government has done is effectively issue condemnations to Israel, which I think has emboldened Hamas, and that has not helped anybody. It's certainly not helped the people in Gaza. It's not helped aid get into Gaza.
Multiple lifeboats have been called out to help with chaotic scenes in the English Channel as more than 500 small boat migrants attempt to cross to the UK. Lifeboats from Dover, Ramsgate, Walmer and Dungeness have all been called in to support Border Force vessels, which have been overwhelmed by the number of migrant boats currently making the crossing. Every French border patrol vessel in the region, along with a number of French lifeboats, are currently escorting multiple migrant dinghies towards the UK. One senior maritime security source told GB News the situation out there is complete chaos. Now, Hawaii, Japan and Russia have all lifted their tsunami warnings after a massive earthquake triggered the warnings around the Pacific region. The 8.8 magnitude quake is the 6th strongest ever recorded. The Russian Pacific town of Severokulisk earlier reported tsunami waves of over 3 metres. Workers evacuated the stricken Fukushima nuclear power plant in Japan as others sought higher ground after they predicted waves of a similar size. Meanwhile, the Hawaiian governor signed an emergency declaration and called for the evacuation of some coastal areas, all now relaxed. And fans have gathered to say goodbye to Ozzy Osbourne today as his coffin proceeded along Broad Street in Birmingham. The hearse passed the Black Sabbath bench, where thousands have paid tribute to the 76-year-old heavy metal legend. Members of Ozzy's family were all in attendance, laying flowers at the tributes before making their own way to a private funeral this afternoon. From disused tracks to new homes, the government's fast-tracking house building on old railway land. A new company called Platform 4 will manage brownfield sites to help build 40,000 homes over the next 10 years. Replacing a fragmented system split between rail bodies, it will initially focus on England and Wales with scope to reach Scotland. Transport Secretary Heidi Alexander laid out her plan to GB News earlier on.
People across the country in our towns and our cities are crying out for new life to be brought back in to the heart of the places where they live. And so we're going to work in a more coordinated way by bringing together an organisation called London and Continental Railways with Network Rail's Property Development Group. We think that over the next decade we could build 40,000 homes.
And history has been made at the Royal Observatory, with Professor Michelle Doherty becoming the first woman ever appointed Astronomer Royal. Approved by the King, she takes on the role originally created in 1675 to help solve the mystery of longitude at sea. Professor Doherty is a leading space physicist and joins a line of prestigious scientists dating back to John Flamsteed. Those are the latest GB News headlines for now. Before I hand you back to Tom and Emily, let's check in with the markets.
My Claim Group sponsors the GB News Finance Report.
Here's a quick snapshot of the afternoon's markets. The pound will buy you $1.336 and €1.160. The price of gold is £2,493.54 per ounce, and the FTSE 100's at 9,103 points.
My Claim Group sponsors the GB News Finance Report.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's now 10 minutes past 2, and the backlash is growing over the Prime Minister's plan to formally recognise the state of Palestine in September at a UN meeting in New York if Israel doesn't accede to his demands.
Our goal remains a safe and secure Israel alongside a viable and sovereign Palestinian state. But right now, that goal is under pressure like never before. So today, as part of this process towards peace, I can confirm the UK will recognise the state of Palestine by the United Nations General Assembly in September.
OK, well, Sir Keir made the announcement after an emergency cabinet meeting on the humanitarian crisis in Gaza yesterday afternoon.
In response, the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has said that his country will not agree to the conditions set out by Downing Street, which include a long-term peace plan based on a two-state solution.
Some are now asking if the Prime Minister is rewarding Hamas terrorists. Well, joining us is the journalist and broadcaster Jonathan Sakadotti. Thank you very much indeed, Jonathan, for joining us. I've read your piece in The Spectator today, I believe it was. Very interesting. Can you just help us a little bit with the wording to begin with? Because I think it was a little confusing, actually, what the Prime Minister was saying in this statement about recognising the Palestinian state. He says, I can confirm the UK will recognise the state of Palestine in September unless the Israeli government takes substantive steps to end the appalling situation in Gaza, agrees to a ceasefire, commits to a long-term sustainable peace, reviving the prospect of a two-state solution. So he'll only recognise the state of Palestine if the Israelis don't do these things.
Right. I mean, it's ridiculous if you think about it, because the idea is that this is recognising a state of Palestine as a punishment to the state of Israel. And if the state of Israel does what Keir Starmer wants, he might think about not recognising the state of Palestine. So it's not actually recognition of a would-be state. I mean, how can you propose to recognise a state without knowing who its people are? Are they jihadist savages? Are they rapists, murderers, kidnappers, child abusers, torturers of their own people? Are they communists? Are they fascists? He doesn't have anything to say about who the people of that state are, nor who's going to run that state. Is it going to be the terrorists of Hamas or the other terrorist groups in Gaza? Is it going to be Mahmoud Abbas, the leader of the Palestinian Authority and the Fatah Party, who's in, I think, 19th or 20th year of his 4-year term? It's a corrupt government there as well. There's really been apparently no thought about whether or not this would-be state actually measures up to any of the requirements for statehood. It's just all about punishing Israel.
What the Prime Minister might say here is that we do do recognise lots of despotic states around the world. We recognise these states. Doesn't mean that we have to agree with them or think that they're run by good people, that they're not corrupt or that they're democratic in any sort of way. We recognise autocracies. We recognise horrific countries with terrible human rights regimes. It's entirely possible for the United Kingdom government to say this area of land we recognise as something called Palestine.
Yes, I mean, I'm guessing that the states you're referring to actually exist already and are not disputed or would be states. But again, why would you want, after the most horrific attack on Israel, pretty much in living history, by the Palestinians, would you want to recognise them as a state? So what he's effectively doing here is rewarding terrorism rather than any form of peace talks or diplomacy. And don't forget that this has come about as a direct result of the October the 7th attacks and the war that has then ensued. And again, just think about the technicalities of what he said. If Israel can achieve a ceasefire before September, then he won't recognise statehood. So what does that do? Who's been refusing the ceasefires? According to Egypt and the US, there have been these negotiations between Egypt, Israel, the US and Qatar. The people who have accepted the ceasefire proposals has been Israel. Those who have rejected them have been Hamas. So they are rejecting them. Now they have an incentive to continue rejecting any ceasefire proposals until September, because if they manage to do that, keeping the people they kidnapped, the 20 alive and more dead, until September, torturing them, starving them, then they'll be rewarded with statehood. If they agree to the ceasefire, Keir Starmer says he won't be recognising Palestinian statehood. Now, let me ask you, even David Lammy, with his rather ropey performance on, Mastermind and apparently subnormal IQ, could probably figure out that that will incentivise Hamas to continue hardening its position rather than actually bringing about any kind of peaceful resolution. So it just shows that they don't mean what they say at all. This is literally a stick to beat Israel with, and it has absolutely nothing to do with the so-called Palestinian state that they're imagining there is a need for alongside Israel.
OK, well, Jonathan Sacerdoti, thank you very much indeed, journalist and broadcaster on that one. Let us know at home what you make of it all. I think it might have something to do with the 220 Labour MPs who've been banging on Keir Starmer's door saying, please do this.
And indeed the 6 independent MPs who are founding a new political party that could challenge the Labour Party on just this issue.
Well, absolutely. But in other news, an 8.8 magnitude earthquake, one of the strongest ever recorded, struck eastern Russia overnight, triggering tsunami warnings across the Pacific.
Well, tsunami waves have already reached California and Hawaii, although not as large as was once thought, prompting those evacuations. Of course, Hawaii's tsunami warning has since been downgraded to merely advisory. Residents are being told it's safe to return, but dangerous tides do persist.
OK, well, joining us now is the Chief Executive at Shelterbox, Sanj Shrikanthan. Sanj, thank you very much indeed for joining us. What do we know at this stage? Some of the warnings seem to have subsided somewhat.
Yes, it does seem, though, that the initial warnings, which were quite severe, have been downgraded in part in some locations. But they were right to be there in the first place, because this is one of the 10 largest earthquakes ever recorded in history, and at a depth of 18 kilometers, that's very shallow. So there were really great fears earlier this morning, and hopefully the worst is past us. But of course, with earthquakes, we don't know if aftershocks will contribute to fresh warnings or indeed fresh earthquakes in other parts of the Pacific Rim.
And of course, this is an area that is not unknown to tsunamis in recent history. Indeed, it's a very seismically active part of the world. These warnings must be pretty sophisticated in this part of the world.
That's right. That's the advantage, because it's so geologically active, is that the warning systems are quite sophisticated, and also people in the area of the Pacific are used to these warnings and have grab bags in many cases and are prepared to move quite quickly. Whereas if it's in an area that doesn't see earthquakes very often at all, people are not as alert to these warnings. So that's good. But the downside is that this may not be the last in terms of aftershocks or follow-on earthquakes that we might see.
And as the Chief Executive of Shelterbox, you help with emergency disaster relief, trying to help people who are in situations where there are tsunamis and the like. Were you activating already to try and, put together support in case, people were in real trouble?
Yes, I mean, this is bread and butter. What we do is responding to disasters of this kind, going back to the tsunami of 2004-5. And we already have forward-based supplies in the region and are putting together a team on paper who may need to deploy depending on how these tsunami warnings pan out. I think the biggest challenge for us as Shelterbox, but also other aid organizations, is where are the needs going to be greatest? Because, of course, this is a vast area with over a dozen countries that potentially could be struck by tsunami waves.
Well, hopefully you won't have to activate those deployments, but good luck if you do. Sandra Canthan, thank you very much indeed. Chief Executive at Shelterbox, the emergency disaster relief charity.
Well, it does look like we might have avoided the very worst there, but I suppose the watchword of the day is vigilance.
Absolutely. Well, GB News can exclusively reveal today that multiple lifeboats have been called out to help with chaotic scenes in the English Channel as more than 500 small boat migrants attempt to cross to the UK today.
Every French border patrol vessel in the region, along with a number of French lifeboats, are currently escorting multiple migrant dinghies across towards the United Kingdom. If those currently in the Channel make it to the UK, well, it will take the number of migrants who have made that illegal crossing so far this year beyond the mark of 25,000.
Well, joining us now with the very latest is GB News Home and Security Editor Mark White. Mark, we hadn't heard too much from the Channel, but you're describing chaotic scenes today that our border force can't manage.
Yeah, chaos is the apt word here, I think, to describe it. I was speaking to a senior maritime source who said that Border Force have just simply been overwhelmed by the surge in vessels coming across the Channel. We've got some latest pictures that we can show you of the lifeboats coming into Dover Harbour this morning. Now, this is the Dover lifeboat alongside a rigid inflatable lifeboat that was called in to assist as well. And on this one boat, there were 74 migrants. Well, it wasn't just the Dover lifeboat, but the Ramsgate, Dungeness, and Walmar lifeboats all called in to assist Border Force because of the number of migrant boats that were coming across the Channel. Every single French Border Patrol vessel and their multiple lifeboats were all involved in that process of escorting them over as well. We've other images we can show of two of the Border Force vessels, Defender and Volunteer, here coming into Dover Harbour as well. Now, I spoke to you last hour and said those vessels, we understood, were double loaded. In other words, they picked up the migrants from two boats each. So each of these Border Force vessels, 2 migrant lots, 4 in total just on those Border Force vessels. Well, just one of those vessels, our producer Chris counted 170 migrants. It appears that there were 92 migrants on one migrant boat, absolutely stuffed to the gunnels, and then another migrant boat with some 78 migrants on board, so also stuffed out there, 170 just on that one Border Force vessel alone. Another Border Force vessel, which is double loaded, is waiting to disembark. Another lifeboat, as we speak, is disembarked. It's difficult to keep up at this stage, but 70 on board that. So I make it, we're at for the day already about 370 or so, with more Border Force vessels and lifeboats to come into Dover Harbour. So we're easily going to reach that figure of 25,000 small boat migrants who crossed the English Channel so far this year. And that is, as I say, a very important milestone, because we're then just over 10,000 away from the total for the whole of last year. And we're only now into the really busy summer months, so we're very easily going to surpass last year's totals. And this at a time when just a couple of days ago, our Prime Minister stood up with Donald Trump and told him very proudly how he was smashing the gangs.
Yeah, absolutely, Mark. We just look so impotent. Anyway, Mark White, thank you very much for that update. As ever, it just continues. Yeah, I mean, that reminder of Donald Trump. Keir Starmer stood there saying, Don't worry, guys, we're dealing with this
International
issue.
gangs, which then made Donald Trump say, you're doing a fantastic job, obviously not knowing the numbers there, which is... But you know what's more frustrating? Seeing that footage that Mark brought us of just these people, you know, they come across on the small boat, which we all say is wrong, but then they're picked up in the middle of the sea by our own border force, and then given, you know, all the provisions that they need, counted off one by one, plomped immediately into a hotel, in some cases given mobile phones, new clothes, all the rest of it. And each one of these individuals on board one of these boats who's just sort of chanced it across the water represents tens, if not hundreds of thousands of pounds for the British taxpayer over the course of the coming years.
Yeah, we don't know who they are either. I mean, the safety and security risk. Some people try to deny. Anyway, if you need cheering up, here's how to enter our big cash giveaway.
There's only 2 days left to see how you could be our biggest cash winner to date. £54,321 in tax-free cash is up for grabs in our summer Great British giveaway. Cash to spend on anything you like. All of that cash could send you on a holiday, boost your savings, or just send some of those day-to-day financial stresses packing. You have to hurry, as lines close at 4 p.m. on Friday. For another chance to win, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB14 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
You've read the headlines, you've heard what those in power have to say. How about now we actually get to the truth?
They would pay attention.
We go beyond the political theatre and tell you what's really going on behind the scenes. For a massive council tax hike, one of the biggest in the UK. Others follow their lines, but we go off script.
You sound like a broken record. You say that week after week.
Cutting through the narratives and giving you unique perspectives. That's Ben Leo tonight, Saturdays and Sundays from 9 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m.
only on GB News.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised. I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. Some breaking news to bring you. A High Court judge has granted the founder of the proscribed group Palestine Action an appeal against the proscription of his campaign group.
Yeah, so apparently the High Court has ruled that several of the grounds that Palestine Action presented to the court as to why the government's actions were unreasonable in prescribing the group were upheld today. Now, of course, Palestine Action was prescribed under the Terrorism Act 2000 at the start of the month. But as we've just heard, this will continue.
And this is a surprise, given that it was an act of Parliament, in effect, that prescribed this group. And in this country, Parliament is sovereign. So it's hard to see under what grounds Parliament can be determined to be wrong, unless, of course, this is brought under a higher authority than Parliament, such as an international organisation like the ECH.
Yeah, so this co-founder of Palestine Action, Huda Amori, their lawyers, his lawyers, argued last week that the prescription of Palestine Action, placing it on par with groups such as Islamic State and Boko Haram, was repugnant and an authoritarian and blatant abuse of power. So on those grounds, challenging this prescription.
Which is strange, particularly because constitutionally, the government is allowed to do repugnant things. I mean, you can disagree with things that the government does. It doesn't seem like a grounds to stop them just because it's repugnant.
Well, clearly this High Court judge believes that they could potentially have a case, or at least a right to challenge this legally. So there you go. We'll bring you any updates and more on that as and when we get it, but we thought we'd bring you that breaking news.
Absolutely. In other news, it's another piece of international law. All new UK cars will follow European rules and include breathalyzers and black box recorders by mandate.
Wow. Starmer's government says staying aligned avoids higher costs for drivers, but critics say it's a sign Labour wants Britain back under Brussels' thumb.
Well, joining us now is the motoring presenter and former Stig, Ben Collins. Ben, so good to have you on the show. Thanks for being with us. This is a really peculiar thing, that new cars will have breathalyzers fitted within the car, thanks to some EU rule.
Yeah, I'm all for people taking personal responsibility for their safety. I think that's a good thing, and you can go and buy a digital breathalyzer to keep yourself safe, your family safe, on trips home, and do the right thing. I think it's different when the car won't start, because potentially there are faults in the device, and also a breathalyzer won't test for drugs, which is now more common than drunk driving. So I think there's a bit of a hole in the safety philosophy there. I think I can see why they would want to do something like that. I think the harder sell is the black box. Because that's such an invasive thing, and you're really putting Big Brother in the car with you, where they're tracking everywhere you go, everything you do in the car, and I think that's a negative. And if people really wanted that, they would go out and buy the black boxes under the current opportunity you can take with insurance. But the majority haven't done that, and so I think it's a shame, and it will add cost to the cars. These systems aren't free. Every one of us will pay effectively for the bad behaviour of a small minority. The majority of us will now pay extra for these devices to go in the cars, which I think is the wrong way to go.
Yeah, it's such a story of our time, isn't it? The law-abiding lot have to suffer as a result of those who can't control themselves. But Ben, how would it actually work, a breathalyzer in the car? So in order to just get the ignition going, you'd have to breathe into this piece of tech, and it will say, you're good to go, or you're not good to go. And if you're not good to go, you're over the limit, then the car just will not start. Is that how it is?
My understanding is that's right. So there's already AdBlue for diesel, which has had a lot of trouble and reliability problems where car won't start. So if you run out of AdBlue, the additive that's designed to reduce emissions in diesel cars and trucks and cranes, if you run out of AdBlue, the car won't move. But I think there's quite a high percentage of failures in those systems where you can't, even if you've got the AdBlue in the car or truck, it won't let you move anyway. So that wouldn't be ideal if you need to get home or it's late at night and you want to travel. So I can't vouch for how reliable these new systems are with breathalyzers, and presumably that side would hopefully be ironed out.
But also
that
this
is the
black
philosophy
box
behind
thing, I mean, essentially being tracked and measured for everything that you do. I mean, isn't part of the joy of driving that sometimes, whisper it, you go a little bit over the limit?
Well,
not
that's
in
why
terms
there's a
of
margin
drinking, but in terms of speed, I should say.
In terms of speed and where you go, sometimes a pop of gas is it's a safety measure. You need to move away from something. Somebody stops in front of you, you need to hit the brake, or you may need to accelerate into a safe spot, which is why there's margins allowed in the speed limit. And I think that by putting effectively the monitoring system in the car, it's a massive invasion of our privacy and our data. It's not just what you're doing; it's where you are. And so it's not something we've ever had before. So it's 24/7 telemetry on where you go and what you get up to.
Gosh, having a car is about your independence, isn't it? Ben Collins, thank you very much indeed, motoring presenter and former Stig. Thank you very much.
I mean, this is the sort of thing that people voted to leave the European Union to avoid. And now we have a government signing us up to these bonkers EU rules that take away our liberty and add costs to our vehicles.
Also, if someone nefarious gets hold of your black box or gets access to it, they know exactly where you're going every day of the week, every moment of the day. Anyway, this is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News. Lots more coming up. Yes, fresh outrage in Rotherham as 5 women say they were not only abused by grooming gangs, but also by police officers meant to protect them. We'll have more on that after the news headlines.
Very good afternoon. The latest headlines from the GB newsroom. Some breaking news in the last half hour. Palestine Action's co-founder, Huda Amari, has won a bid to bring a High Court challenge over the group's ban as a terror organisation. That currently means that supporters could face 14 years in prison. Meanwhile, Sir Keir Starmer is under fire as a British-Israeli woman who was held hostage by Hamas for more than a year has said he is not standing on the right side of history after his pledge to recognise a Palestinian state. Multiple lifeboats have been called out to help with the chaotic scenes in the English Channel as more than 500 small boat migrants attempt to cross to the UK. As one senior maritime security source told GB News, the situation out there is complete chaos. Hawaii, Japan and Russia have lifted all tsunami warnings after a massive earthquake triggered warnings around the Pacific region. The 8.8 magnitude quake is the 6th strongest ever recorded. And fans are saying goodbye to Ozzy Osbourne today as thousands line Broad Street in Birmingham to pay their respects to the heavy metal legend. Those are the latest headlines for now. More news at the top of the hour.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Hello there, good morning. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Many should see a dry day ahead. Plenty of sunny spells. We can't rule out the odd shower, but where you do see any sunshine, it is going to be feeling warm. And that's all thanks to high pressure building towards the southwest. But draw your eyes to the northwest of the country, a frontal system lingering on here. So that's where we'll see the bulk of the cloud this afternoon, possibly even some light outbreaks of rain, particularly across western parts of Scotland and eventually clearing Northern Ireland. Now the odd shower, particularly across parts of the southeast, but otherwise a dry afternoon for many. Plenty of sunny spells and a mix of cloud too. Feeling warm, highs reaching around 25 degrees Celsius across the south, but even across northern areas, many towns and cities reaching the low 20s. Now, as we progress further into the evening, there's still going to be a fair amount of clouds, some light outbreaks of rain, this time pushing into central parts of Scotland, though northeastern parts of Scotland should remain mostly dry. Any rain clearing away from Northern Ireland, so it should be quite a pleasant end to the day, and fairly similar once again across the rest of England and Wales. Still a chance of the odd isolated shower across the southeast, but many should see a dry end to the day. And it remains fairly similar through the course of the evening. Still some light outbreaks of rain affecting northeastern parts of Scotland. Then we do just need to keep an eye on this system pushing into Wales and central parts of England as we head towards dawn. A chance we could start to see some heavy showers through the course of the morning. But for many, once again, remaining mostly dry. And it's going to be particularly mild as well. Once again, across the southeast, many lows not dropping much past 16 to 17 degrees Celsius. Now, it's really across central areas and parts of the south that is a bit of a watch point tomorrow. Some quite heavy, possibly thundery showers pushing into central and southern parts. So this could bring some hail and also some frequent lightning. So do take care if you're out and about. Also the odd shower across eastern parts of Scotland, northeastern parts of England. But elsewhere, plenty of sunshine and once again, feeling warm.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good afternoon. This is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. The A36 northbound in Wiltshire faces lane closures, expected to clear by 5:15 this evening. The M23 northbound exit slip at Junction 8 in Surrey has one lane closed due to a collision with normal conditions by 4:15. Road users on the M25 clockwise in Essex should expect 20-minute delays, clearing by 2:45 this afternoon. Note, the A487 is closed for maintenance. And on the trains, Avanti West Coast reports major disruptions between Milton Keynes Central and London Euston. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's coming up to 20 to 3. Now, grooming gang victims in Rotherham have said that corrupt police officers worked alongside the gangs or failed to act on their abuse.
Yes, 5 women have come forward to say that they were abused by police officers alongside the gangs.
Well, one says she was raped from the age of 12 by a serving South Yorkshire police officer in a marked police car. He would threaten to hand her back to the gang if she didn't comply, she claims.
Well, joining us now is the online grooming expert and former Met investigator, John Taylor. I mean, it doesn't bear thinking about, does it, John? I mean, police officers are supposed to be there to look after everyone, to look after you, and allegations here of raping and being complicit in what is one of the most awful scandals of our time.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, Emily, and good afternoon, Tom. You know, if ever there was a further call why there had to be or is going to be a national inquiry into this whole saga, this surely is it. You know, I was in the police force for 30 years, and yes, you were always aware of corrupt officers, but surely nothing is worse than in this area here, the fact that you've got these 5 victims who've come forward so bravely to say, well, at the time, police officers were actually abusing me, sexually abusing me. You've got a further 25 that, without a doubt, were corrupt and had ties with the grooming gangs, were even supplying drugs. And above all, now you've got the situation that South Yorkshire Police are investigating their own. Now, however much further forward we've gone with the police service, this should not be happening. And without a doubt, the IOPC should look at that and say, no, they shouldn't be investigating their own, and it should be overseen by themselves, the IOPC, and of course the NCA.
This is the most extraordinary thing, is it not? We've spoken a lot about the sort of clannish-like behaviour that we've seen in so many of these towns that hosted grooming gangs and that may still have grooming gangs operational within them, the way that communities can close ranks and keep out investigations. But I suppose it only stands to reason that there will also be some of those closed ranks within positions of authority, whether it's at the council or in the police.
Oh, 100%, and also even care workers. We've had the story of the care worker turning up at, or social worker turning up at the marriage of a 16-year-old girl. All these victims are vulnerable. They've always been vulnerable in their lives. And when it comes to actually wanting society or people in positions of authority to actually be in their corner to help them, they're crying out for help. These individuals weren't there, whether they're council, care workers, social workers, or above all, police officers. And now you've still got the situation now in 2025 that out of all these 30 victims that have come forward, only 17 are prepared to actually give their testimony to the police because the trust still isn't there.
Yeah, and it's going to be very hard, isn't it, to get justice for these women who were just girls when all of this was taking place, because a lot of this happened quite a long time ago now.
That's a very good point, Emily. I mean, historical sexual abuse cases, I worked on many in the space of about 20 years. They're very, very difficult to prove. Now, in these cases, when we talk about the police officers and some of the allegations that have been said about being sexually abused in a police car, well, there's a good bit of evidence there. There will be records to show whether that officer was on duty, what car he was driving. So you're going to get further evidence as long as that victim is prepared to have that testimony go to the police. So there is some, but if there is no other corroboration or there's no other further evidence, these are very, very hard to prove. But what we must go back to is we want to have victims to have the feeling of a bit of security and a bit of trust that they can come forward. They will be listened to. It's not a question of, will I believe? No, you will be listened to. We will listen to you and we will help. And then, of course, you do have these situations with historical sexual abuse cases. A lot of them don't actually go to court because the Crown Prosecution Service will say there's not enough evidence.
John, when it comes to this inquiry, have you heard what the timeline is? I mean, there was a big furore kicking off when the Prime Minister announced that he was U-turning on this and that there would be an inquiry. But it seems that the government has gone quiet ever since.
Yeah, I think the expression is stalling, something like that, Tom. I'm with you on it. We're waiting for it. I certainly haven't heard of a date or when things are going, or who's going to do it. We really want to see a thorough and robust inquiry here, because not only GB News, but you've got individuals going, look, there's something to be investigated here. GB News identified 50 towns, 50 cities in the UK. This will be one hell of an inquiry. Who are they going to get to do this? Are they going to get experienced detectives? Are they going to get which organisations? And then you've got the issue about identifying more victims. Oh, in Rotherham, they're talking about 1,400 victims. That's an underestimation, without a doubt. I mean, it's an awful high number. But if they put a good investigation in place, hopefully they will identify more victims. And I say that because I want victims to be helped. I want victims to be listened to, believed, and action to be taken.
Yeah, absolutely. John Taylor, thank you very much indeed. I'm sure we'll speak again. Online grooming expert and former Met investigator. I mean, we started this conversation talking about police potentially being involved in the rape of children. I mean, it's just... oh, it's just so hideous. Horrifying. We are going to take a look at the travel weather, though.
Can't wait to get in that sea.
Lovely and warm.
Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News travel destinations forecast.
The heat wave is now easing across parts of Greece and also parts of Turkey, but elsewhere across Europe, still some humid air creating thundery downpours. But across the west, particularly across Portugal, Spain, most of France, it's largely dry, plenty of sunshine. But across parts of Germany, northern parts of Italy, still a chance of some quite intense thundery downpours. And also still across parts of Greece and Bulgaria, we could start to see some outbreaks of rain. But otherwise, for the large majority, plenty of sunshine and warm temperatures.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News travel destinations forecast.
Well, this is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News. Plenty more to come still on today's programme, including this curious story. Yes, the former Prime Minister of Canada, Justin Trudeau, and Katy Perry, the pop star, have been spotted dining together in Montreal. We'll have all the curious details.
Westminster, the ultimate clique.
And you're fighting like rats in a sack.
But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah,
and now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
I'm so happy.
Did you watch it then? Did you enjoy it?
I was a nervous wreck.
Yeah.
Honestly, why did it come down to the crunch like that?
Because it's England. You know what? No matter whether it's the women or the men, it still keeps you on the edge of your seat. But they've got this resilience. The thing is that we've never seen with the men before. I suppose it's changed a little bit, but it really is that. I don't want to use any cliches, but that's my job. That's my job. Never say die. Never say die attitude. And it was terrific. Do you know though? For how long, out of the 3 knockout games that England played after the group stage, for how long they were actually ahead?
Go on.
Don't worry, I'll tell you. 4 minutes and 52 seconds across 3 entire games was the amount of time they were actually ahead. Doesn't matter. Doesn't make any difference.
No. Yeah.
They came back and they won it. It was
would it have been better? I was still going to say.
Are you looking at
you know, but in terms of if we'd had a stronger game, if we'd been really punching in this rather than it going right down to the wire.
No, I don't think so. I don't think it really. I honestly don't think it matters. It's just about who wins, and when you've got a trophy. Which is up for grabs there, and also for the second time that the Lionesses have done it. And they were underdogs. I mean,
were they?
Yeah, they were.
Yeah.
You'll have players that will say, oh, no, I don't think so. And I said to you on Friday, there wasn't much in it, but the Spanish team were the favourites. They're the world champions. And also, pound for pound, if you look player for player, again, there's another cliche for you, they would have been the better side. But it's a team game. It's how everybody reacts together, how everybody plays alongside each other, and the management. And you could see that. And when it came to penalties, there was one side that were going to win it, and I just thought it was us.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m. only on GB News.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's coming up to 10 to 3, and here is a story that certainly has people talking. The pop star Katy Perry and former Prime Minister of Canada, Justin Trudeau, were seen dining together in Montreal. Not just anywhere, we're talking white tablecloths, lobster and bodyguards.
Are they the newest power couple on the block, or was it just a fancy dinner with a friend?
Well, joining us now is TV showbiz editor at the Daily Star, Ed Gleave. Ed, Justin Trudeau split from his wife back in 2023. Katy Perry recently broke off her engagement with Orlando Bloom. Could the stars be aligning here in an unlikely new power couple?
Well, it's difficult to know. Nothing's confirmed, but it does look like something could be happening. And I think strange things have happened. We could be seeing the birth of a new sort of showbiz, politics, power couple, which I think is quite exciting. I think people love this sort of thing. It's a nice bit of escapism. And all the signs are there. I mean, they're in a very fancy restaurant. The two of them, it was just the two of them, and they were there. You know, they spent quite a long time together. The footage, they look very cosy. So at this point, I would say it's highly likely, yes.
Yes, well, apparently they didn't just share a couple of dishes. They shared several dishes, yes, including that lobster, which I'm sure cost a few. And they were sipping cocktails as well. So it seems like quite romantic, one might say. We haven't heard if there were candles.
I mean, the thing is, both of these people have been in the public eye for many years, so they know exactly the sort of reaction this will get. So whether it's a sort of shrewd sort of PR move to get themselves talked about, or whether they genuinely are sort of something is happening, either way, they will have known that this was going to happen. So it won't have been by accident. I think it's a win-win for both of them because, you know, he's a politician, but suddenly he's like potentially dating a pop star. That looks pretty good for him. And then, you know, she's kind of showing her ex what he's missing already. So I think it's a really clever move PR-wise for both of them.
I mean, fascinating, given that the history of Katy Perry's sort of relationships. She was married to the Brit Russell Brand for a while, and she was engaged to the Australian Orlando Bloom for a while, and now, potentially, she's with the former Prime Minister of Canada. She's really getting around the Commonwealth realms. There's something about an English-speaking country with the King as the head of state that she really quite adores.
I mean, I think you're finding correlations that perhaps are not that important. I think it's just a bit of fun, Tom. But as I say, I think it's a win for both of them. I mean, he's been a politician obviously for a long time, but this, I mean, it's a great way for both of them to sort of put one, show their ex what they're missing, I think, really. I think they're both coming out of this pretty well. Whether or not they're together, they're getting talked about, and it's in a positive, fun way. I think it's quite good for Katie after all the backlash she had for the space stuff to suddenly be in the papers for something a little bit silly.
Ed Gleave, thank you very much indeed. Showbiz editor at the Daily Star. Great to have you on. Perhaps Trudeau is a bit of a dark horse. Hopefully Katy Perry isn't playing hot and cold.
Oh, I see what you're doing.
And perhaps there were fireworks, or just one firework.
Yeah, well, I wonder whether or not the former Prime Minister of Canada will end up saying, I kissed a girl and I liked it.
Oh, well, that's the best one, isn't it? Everyone knows that one. Everyone at home will know that one. I kissed a girl. Anyway.
Did you?
Not today, no, Tom, not today.
Well, we should say that a wild Alex Armstrong has appeared down from our Westminster studio.
Just
Alex,
in the nick of time.
You're saving us from
just to save the audience.
What's on your show?
Yes, just to save the audience from hearing more about Katy Perry and Justin Trudeau, two people I know they absolutely adore hearing from. We've got a massive show for you today. London crime chaos. I mean, Donald Trump's been slamming Sadiq Khan, but we're going to dig into the numbers. Trust me, it's explosive stuff. Has Hamas been rewarded by Keir Starmer? And are we really in a position to be dictating whether there should be a Palestinian state? Oh, I don't think so. Record migrant arrivals as well today. Mark White's going to be joining us for the latest on that. And is there a big Brexit betrayal happening? Trust me, you aren't going to want to miss the show today. But first up, it's your weather.
Even though we'll see a cloudy start, it'll be a bright outlook for the rest of the day. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, good afternoon. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. A thunderstorm warning has been issued for tomorrow across central and southeastern parts of England, and there's a chance that this could lead to some travel disruption. But for this evening, high pressure once again remaining largely dominant as it builds across the southwest. But a different story in northwestern parts of Scotland. Thicker cloud here and also some outbreaks of rain. These are set to continue as they move their way eastwards through the course of the night. And then it's all eyes towards Wales, central parts of England, where once again some thicker areas of cloud and some showery outbreaks will move through during the early hours of the morning. But elsewhere remaining dry, a mix of cloud and also some clear spells, but it is set to be quite a mild and muggy night to come. During the first part of the morning, once again, there are still going to be some outbreaks of rain across parts of Scotland. It should be mostly light, but it's set to be quite persistent. That's away from Aberdeenshire, though. We could start to see some heavy outbreaks through the early hours. Across Northern Ireland, a chance we could see the odd shower, but elsewhere across northern parts of England, it should be a mostly dry and bright start to the day. Then across Wales and some parts of central and southeastern England, we will start to see those showers through the course of the morning, but it's really as we head through the day that these showers will start to turn quite heavy and into the afternoon turning quite thundery. So we could see some frequent lightning, some hail and also some quite strong gusty winds. So keep an eye on the Met Office website for any updates on those. We could also see some showers across eastern parts of Scotland, northeastern parts of England, but elsewhere there'll still be plenty of sunny spells and feeling warm and muggy once again, highs reaching around 25 degrees Celsius. Through into the evening, we'll still see a continuation of those thundery showers across parts of the southeast, eventually easing away, leading to a mostly dry night. But once again, we could see some showery outbreaks across the northwest. That's before a drier day on Friday and Saturday, before further outbreaks of rain for the second half of the weekend. That's it from me. Bye-bye.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
It's the final week to see how you can win big, as there's an incredible £54,321 in tax-free cash to be won. What would you spend it on? The holiday of a lifetime? Or just sit back, relax and remove some of those day-to-day financial stresses? Lines close on the 1st of August, so make sure you don't miss out. For another chance to win, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB14 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates, 5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5. You got me good there. Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show. It's not a bad brand. Yeah. Uncensored. Very, very racy tonight on the unpredictable. What did she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
You've read the headlines, you've heard what those in power have to say. How about now we actually get to the truth?